Come hang with the Woodward Sports Crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays. Join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. It is Halloween, coming off a big win on Monday Night Football, primetime football. The Detroit Lions took care of the Las Vegas Raiders. And the score, like you look at it, Sam, and you're like, you know what? 12-point win, solid win. I got what I wanted. 2 scores. That's all cute and everything. But it should have never been that close.
Oh, no. It was thorough domination.
No, that's the thing. You watch the game. The Lions dominated that football game from start to finish. Now, there were times in that football game where, especially in the red zone, Lions were 1 for 5. Didn't matter. It did not matter. But we got a packed show for you guys today. I'm excited. We got JB. Is that JB Stallions in the booth? Oh, yeah. He's working OT.
You got to show them the play sheet, JB.
Yeah, you got the play sheet too? Damn.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's got the props with him and everything. That is JB Stallions. And then we have Ted Lasso? Matt Broder with us?
Howdy. Hey, y'all.
Look at that. Then, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Lucas Klotzen.
Yes, sir.
What?
Solo cup, baby. Solo cup. That's how I'm feeling right now, too. Easter market got to me.
Yeah, Lucas, I don't think has even shut his eyes. So this man is going all night. He was indulging in some long drinks, and he's ready to go, man. We're fired up on this Victory Tuesday. Welcome, everybody, again, to the Morning Woodward Show. Like the stream if you haven't already. It does help us, helps the algorithm, helps the network as well. And, guys, I want to start off by saying, and we talked about it yesterday, but this is exactly what the Detroit Lions needed. They needed this. They needed, despite it being 2 scores, just a victory in general. Mm-hmm. They needed a win after last week, Sam Flannel. You're on primetime football. The world is watching you, and you took care of business. You beat the inferior team. That's how it was supposed to go all along.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Raiders, and when you're at home, you're playing them on Monday Night Football, you really have no choice but to go out and win that game. I wasn't calling for double digits, but the fact that it was double digits just makes it that much sweeter. And honestly, one of the things that really like hit home of why it was so dominant was the Detroit Lions only allowed 157 yards and 7 offensive points to the Raiders. I called before this game for it to be sort of a get-right game for the defense, and it most certainly was. They obviously took a bad loss at the hands of the Ravens at Baltimore in the previous week. Lamar Jackson had a great game, but it's kind of different stakes when you're playing the Raiders with their terrible rush offense and Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback. It makes things quite a bit easier, Matt Broder, when it's Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Lamar Jackson. Just a complete dominating win. The only reason why the score was even as close as it was because the Lions did have a couple of what could have been but didn't turn out to be backbreaking turnovers, including a fumble at the 5, which was kind of sketchy to say the least, and a pick 6. Other than that, it was pretty much, it felt like a 28-point victory, but it was actually a 12-point win.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just the stats. I mean, watching the game, that there was one point in time, and even after the game, if you check, they ran almost double the plays. They ran double the offensive plays, and they only won by 12. Like, there's a lot of things to clean up. But you know what's good about this win itself on yesterday? You got out of there healthy. You got to win. You're 6-2. You're top of the NFC. And you're going to get everybody back healthy after the bye week.
Oh, yeah.
That's what matters. Lucas, how you feeling this morning? It's Halloween. You got the red Solo Cup costume on. How big of a win was that last night, just to get that monkey off your back?
I mean, it was a huge win. It wasn't a win that I wanted to see in that style, especially in the red zone. It worried me. I definitely think there's a lot of things to clean up, but like you said, you're going to take a win in the National Football League at home against Halloween. The city needed it. I think there's a couple players on the team that definitely need to step up their game, but we'll definitely break that down. But I can't complain too much on this Monday or Tuesday morning. Yep. I mean, it's hard to when you're a Detroit Lions fan. You're coming off a Monday Night Football win.
And then, Broder, you were out there. You were in the flesh. How was being there? The environment. I know I saw a lot of people wearing costumes. I saw some people dressing as Alex Anzalone.
Oh yeah.
I saw people in Lions costumes. I think Black Mark Davis was there. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if you spotted him, but what was it like being down there, the environment itself?
Oh, it was awesome. It was electric from the start. I mean, the fans were crazy. From about 60 to 65 minutes before the game, the stadium really started to fill up, and you could just feel the energy. It was a fun energy. People were in their costumes, and they were getting electric. They were getting energetic, I should say. I used electric twice. It was just one of those games. It was weird, like you guys said. It was just a weird, not a perfect game, but also a dominating victory. So I don't know. The fans had their share of moments throughout that game to be excited, to be confused. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. People came out to support the Lions. It was a good night. It was a good night.
Mean, JB Stallions. I listen. I don't want to get you in trouble here. If Dan Campbell reached out, you did some homework on the Raiders, maybe attended some Raiders games. I'm not getting into that, but
I mean,
keep it 100 really quick.
Did you
help out, JB?
Off the record, you know, Dan Campbell reached out to me. He left a message, but I didn't have enough time to get back to him. So
you didn't even return his call?
I had the plays ready for him, but he was already on the field, so I couldn't. But
so JB Stallions, you're the reason Devontae Adams is so pissed right now because you knew what plays they were running for Devontae. He had 7 targets, only 1 catch. Are you the reason he's pissed off?
Hey, I'm not going to say I was, but I'm not going to say I wasn't.
Okay.
All I know is, like, when he threw his hand up, we kind of knew what he was doing. So,
all right.
Just saying.
When he threw his hand up, we knew exactly what he was doing.
Just saying.
I love that. Phil says the helmets are very cool, but not with the gray uniforms. I love those helmets. I just love the unis in general. I know I'm with Phil, though. I mean, the gray unis weren't my desired option. It'd be cool if they had matching blue unis with the helmet, but regardless, man, those unis were sweet. I loved them.
And you know what they also were? They were victory unis. They were Monday Night Football victory uniforms, and that is all that matters. And like we said before, it was one of those, it was kind of a strange game. It was what I like to call an imperfect masterpiece because it should have never been a 12-point game. I mean, the Lions kind of let the Raiders hang around. Like I said, those two, like, not unable to convert red zone opportunities into touchdowns early on in the first half, those couple turnovers, including that pick 6. But did anybody in this room really ever feel like the game was in question? That's kind of the thing. You feel like you're always in control. And also, and I keep saying this, and I know a lot of people, well, I mean, not a lot of people, Matt Broder's not going to like this. Jimmy Garoppolo's terrible. Jimmy Garoppolo, and
agreed.
Jimmy Garoppolo is the single worst quarterback the Detroit Lions have played this season, and they've played some doozies. They played rookie Bryce Young. They played Desmond Ritter. They played Jordan Love. They've played Baker Mayfield. I would take any of those quarterbacks over Jimmy Garoppolo. What I saw in that game, he's a bum. He's a bum of a quarterback, and the fact that he was ever able to win anything in San Francisco still makes me mad to this day. Enjoy your 5-12 season, Jimmy Garoppolo.
This man was a bona fide scrub.
Yeah,
He can't play.
Jimmy G was 10 for 21, a 126, and a pick. And by the way, Kirby Joseph, get right game. And we were talking about that. He was due. And I didn't put no money on it. That was for Booner. That was for Spenny. They sprinkled some dollars on it. They made some money on it. But I'm glad he's back because you talk about this secondary. I know Aaron Glenn got a game ball. He gave it to Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, and of course they deserve it as well. But just that defense, man, entirely. I mean, you got to see Broderick Martin out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could see him out there. It's not very hard. He's a behemoth of a human being, but hey, at least he got some run out there, brother. It was nice to see him out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he made a couple good plays, too. I saw him. I was watching him really closely on one, and he blew up the left guard on the Oakland Raiders, and Josh Jacobs managed to kind of juke around them and get through a gap. But he was making a little difference there the couple snaps he was in.
He was taking – there was one play where he drew a double team.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
like, dude, it's his first, 5 plays out there.
Yeah.
And he already drew a double team.
That's part of what he can do. I mean, he doesn't need to get penetration. He just needs to take up some space in there so that the other guys can make the tackle on the running back. Broderick Martin, I think people need to recognize the patience needed with him, and he's still got some potential. He's still got a way to go, but he is going to contribute to this team maybe later in the year.
Yeah, playing alongside Aleem McNeil, another big game from him, which, again, we'll get into him more later in the show because Aleem McNeil, the guy that we had a lot of hopes for before the season. You know, and again, the defense last week struggled as an entire unit, but Aleem McNeil, 2 sacks. Again, he was out there making plays, 2 tackles for losses, had a pass deflection, couple quarterback hits. He was doing everything, Aleem McNeil. It was nice to see him, and you felt his presence out there. At least Jimmy G did. did. I'll tell you what. We'll go to break in a little bit. We got a lot to get to. Just to kind of tease some of the stuff we will be talking about, of course, 8:15. You know what time it is. We got Matt Broder in the studio, the man at Ted Lasso, I should say. Excuse me. Matt Lasso.
Thank you.
We'll be talking to him at 8:15, 8:30. We'll get into Jahmyr Gibbs because, my gosh, I mean, you have to. What he did yesterday. And a lot of people out here saying he can't carry a workload. You know, you gotta be patient with him, which is true. But you got to see a lot of what Jahmyr Gibbs is last night, and we'll talk about that at 8:30. 8:45, like I said, Ali McNeil. We'll get into that as well. 9 o'clock, we'll get into some takeaways. And then, of course, 9:16, trade deadline talk because, guys, it is the day. Mm-hmm. And I believe the deadline's at, 4 o'clock? Mm-hmm. 4 o'clock today, the deadline is. So, again, what will the Lions do? Dan kind of spoke on it yesterday. We'll get into some of his comments and more. And then at 9:30, I'll tell you why Lions fans should be optimistic moving forward. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Hamlin Pub. Because have you ever wanted to go to a bar where you're known as a regular and enjoy Lions games? Well, Hamlin Pub is the place to do so. Head to one of their 7 locations and experience where everyone is a regular. Whether you're enjoying half-off pizza on Thursdays or game day specials available during all Michigan sports and NFL games, Hamlin Pub is the place. Visit the location today and experience your new favorite pub for all things sports.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Hey, this is Mr. Kearney, Chief Academic Officer at Academy of Warren. I want to welcome you to the brand new field house. The state-of-the-art facility has a regulation basketball court, volleyball court, soccer field. It can be used for 7-on-7 football. Our K-8 academic features AM, PM, latchkey, small classroom sizes, Learning Street, futuristic media center, free breakfast and lunch, Houghton Mifflin curriculum, academic games, K-8 athletics, and more. Enroll today at academywarren.net.
Join Woodward Sports and Long Drink live every home game for the official Lions VIP tailgate party. It's at Eastern Market in shed number 5, and it is always a bash. Last night, I know you all had fun. Who was there? Lucas Klotz was there, Kool-Aid was there, and so many Lions fans. I'm sure it was a great time. The official Lions tailgate is back and better than ever. How would you like to pregame it with Woodward Sports and be treated like a VIP? Food, beverages, and entertainment all included. Get your tickets online today at bullseyeeventgroup.com or win some from Woodward Sports today. Just subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on IG, and direct message Lions VIP.
We're back on a Victory Tuesday. It's Halloween, and how fitting. It was a spooky victory yesterday, and everybody's in costume today. Obviously, Flannel Sam as a flannel. That is his costume, of course. I, as the basic bitch I am, have a jersey. And then we have JB Stallions, who, we're lucky enough to be joined by his presence. Had a lot to do with that victory yesterday.
Innocent man.
No. Okay, cut the camera. All right, we got Ted Lasso with us as well, hanging in studio. aka Matt Broder, and of course, my guy, Lucas Klotz, the Red Solo Cup.
The coffee's kicking in, fellas.
Let's go. Come on, Lucas. Victory Tuesday, baby.
Roast. We'll get the barks here going.
All right, that's all. That's
Red
all that
Solo
matters.
Cup's a Michigan-based company. Dart Container out in Lansing. True story.
Wow, Ted Lasso dropping
the
facts.
hell did you just say?
Yeah.
what did you
For another day there, kid.
For another day. Hey,
It's a story for another day.
Another day there, young one. All right. By the way, Scientist Mustard says 6 sacks won me 1,000.
Wow.
Guys, and by the way, if you know me and
Congratulations.
you follow the network and you follow some of the the stream and stuff, I consistently lose. All right, I don't know what it is, and I actually think the reason why that sack bet hit, because me, Booner, and I believe Ryan Lentz, who cooks up the thumbnails, went in on 5 sacks it was like plus 1,500. I threw $10 on it because I thought to myself, this ain't gonna hit. There's no way. I'm involved in it. It's not gonna hit. This is how this works. And they had like 2, I believe. 2, I think, through like 3 quarters. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to prep, make sure everything's all ready for this morning. And as I'm driving home, as soon as I leave the in studio. They get 3 sacks in a drive. I think the reason why we hit it is because I left. I'm serious. I think because my presence was no longer in the studio, we hit that 5-sack bet. I won some money. So shout out to you, scientists, for winning a bag as well. All right, we got Broder with us. It's Tuesdays with Broder. And Matt, number one.
Yes.
We kind of talked about your experience today at the game, but some of your takeaways in a victory that, again, wasn't pretty. I asked for the Lions to win by 2 scores, and technically I got what I asked for.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters. They didn't play their cleanest football, Matt, but they dominated that football game.
They did. It's such a weird 12-point victory. It should have been 3-4, 5 possession victory. I mean, they very easily could have put up 40. But the interesting part of that, every time they did make a mistake, whether it was Jared Goff's pick 6, whether it was Craig Reynolds' questionable fumble call at the 3-yard line, they always managed to come back, whether it was the next drive, the next play, and answer back. It didn't seem like they could be stopped all game, and it didn't seem like the Las Vegas Raiders could do anything on the other side of the ball too. So just in summary, at its highest level, it was their resilience. They made a ton of mistakes. It was not a clean football game, especially on prime time, but they were able to come back and continue to add to that lead.
And by the way, Sam, that Craig Reynolds fumble, that is BS.
Yeah,
they replayed that 5 times, and it was not a fumble. Like that was BS as it is, but regardless.
Yeah, but unlike Lions teams of the past, the Lions didn't crumble, and they got a stop, and they got the ball back, scored, and everything was all well and good. So, Broder, I thought that this Raiders team before the game, they're kind of strange because we know that they're bad. They're going to be probably bottom feeders in the division, but they've got a lot of talented players like Davante Adams and Max Crosby, for example. I would argue that those are probably the 2 best players in the game, but Davante Adams, complete non-factor. I know it wasn't all his fault. Jimmy G missed him a couple of times, but still, 1 catch for 11 yards. You would take that 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000 if you're a defense playing him. And Max Crosby, he was great. He was all over the field. He had that forced fumble and fumble recovery. He had that big tackle for loss on Jamison Williams, but he didn't have that, I would say, drive-killing sack or anything like that, or that drive-killing sack fumble. So how important was it to not let those guys really go off and dominate the game for the Raiders?
I think it was huge, and I think they Max Crosby was a difference maker. He was an animal, and he was way better than I even expected. I mean, he's in that top tier of defensive linemen with Bosa and Watt.
And you know what frustrates me, Matt, is when you're watching the game, there's just times where they just forget to block. They just forget to block him.
Yeah,
it's Max Crosby.
Yeah,
and you just forget to block him. How?
Yeah, and there were some questionable play calls, and I love me some Ben Johnson, but there were a couple times we're running back-to-back plays right at Max Crosby. It was questionable, and he just continued to chase Jahmyr Gibbs down from behind at the line of scrimmage. The dude is an animal. But what they didn't do was let the other guys besides them beat you. Davante Adams didn't have a good game. He did have 1 drop, but man, they didn't have anything going with that offense. Jimmy G is not a good quarterback. It seemed like the Panthers gave the Lions a better effort. It was a better game than the Raiders, But you're right. They just didn't let anybody on the other end really dominate the game. They didn't let Jimmy Garoppolo get into a rhythm. They didn't let Jacoby Myers. He had his first catch, I think, late in the 4th quarter. They just couldn't get anything going. And Detroit, at each level, sort of had an answer for the Raiders' moves.
And one thing, and I know you'll like this one, Broder. How about 16? And by the way, the pick 6 is one thing, and you can kind of speak on that if you want, whose fault it was. But regardless, okay. Well, there you go. We got that out of the way.
I'll bring it up.
But regardless, I think that was a great one for Jared. I mean, he had you talk about a guy. 11 incompletions, 26 of 37, over 250 yards. That was something, and Neil and me kind of talked about it yesterday. That if they're going to win this football game, Jared's going to have to take control. And, of course, the pick 6 does not help. It should have been 20-7 at the very least. The pick, it is what it is. But I thought that was a great game from Jared Goff, especially coming out from last week. The entire, just offensively, defensively, the team looked awful. But they bounced back, and it was a big reason why. It's because Jared freaking Goff.
Yeah, you take that interception away, and his statistics look a lot better. I mean, they don't jump off the page as it stands. I think he had 225 yards in the first half. It was looking like he was going to have a monster game there, but just managed it, especially in that second half, just to do whatever it takes to get them that victory. And yesterday it relied, especially in the second half, relied on that run game, relied on Gibbs and Craig Reynolds to just continue to eat up that clock, that time of possession. They destroyed the Raiders in terms of time of possession, and that allowed them to make mistakes. They just continued to hang on to the ball and had the opportunities to make plays. But yeah, Jared Goff, again, he made big throws when they were needed.
Yep.
He's very accurate. Even on that Jameson Williams drop, I do believe that Jared Goff, it might have been a little off. It was behind him, but I think Jared Goff was keeping it away from the front of Jameson.
That was a bad drop.
There was a safety coming. Yeah, tough catch, but he touches your hands, you got to catch it.
Right.
And that pick six, that was just a bad play. I mean, he was like half trying to throw it away, half just trying to throw it into the ground. He was getting some pressure, and he threw it right to his boy, Marcus Peters.
Oh, Marcus Peters.
Still getting pick sixes even when he is past his prime, because that is just what Marcus Peters does.
That's a Lucas Klotz guy, Marcus Peters, huh?
I used to love Marcus Peters.
How did I know?
used to love Marcus. I wanted him to come here before the offseason.
Oh,
it's like a third string corner. Could you imagine Marcus Peters instead of Will Harris? But anyways,
I'd still. Hey, it's not too late. I wouldn't mind Marcus Peters to just stay in town.
Yeah. Just don't even let him get on the plane.
Don't let him get on the plane. Don't let Max Crosby get on the plane. Just take all of the Raider cast offs. But speaking of guys who had great games, and I know everyone here is going to discuss him on the next segment, but I want to give Broder a chance. How great was Jahmyr Gibbs last night?
Oh, he was fantastic.
In person, what was it like just watching that performance?
And you know what's crazy, Broder? I'm going to bring this up, but you know what? Because Sam opened up the can, I'm going to say this too, because I thought this was crazy. The last 2 games, 15 targets, 14 catches.
Ooh.
Think about that for a second. Guy don't drop the ball.
Yeah. And they're finding him in different spots too in their short pass game. He was running a couple different routes out of the backfield. I think he ran 1 or 2 in the slot, but he set it all up with his running in between the tackles. I
thought he couldn't do that. I was told he can't run between the tackles. He's too tiny and he stinks. That's what I was told.
That's what people say. But they should have remembered that. Remember I think it was his first run against Kansas City. He went and he lowered his shoulder on the Kansas City Chiefs safety at the end of like a 17 or 18 yard run. That he's physical. He's not afraid of contact. Even his long run yesterday where he got tackled he was 10, 11 yards out of the end zone. Instead of running out of bounds like we saw from a current Philadelphia Eagles running back now, he lowered his shoulder to try to get that extra 2-3 yards. He was fantastic. He reminded me, there were some plays, and I'm not going to go this far, but he reminded me of some of the things that Barry Sanders was doing, how he's able to kind of go into the middle of the field, into the middle of this defense with all the big boys, and somehow escape being tackled and just come out the other end, whether it's a spin move, a juke. He was able to bounce it outside 4 or 5 times yesterday to extend these 6-7 yard runs to 13, 14, 18 yards. And that made the difference to me. Jahmyr Gibbs was an absolute difference maker, and it's so great to see him do it on prime time, on national TV. He's not going to surprise anybody anymore.
And here's the thing: a lot of stats will be inflated. And this isn't a surprise to anybody, but the Raiders are just so bad.
They're so bad
that things are going to be like Jahmyr had a career game. Of course, it was against the Raiders. Or you have a stat like this per Next Gen Stats: the Lions' defense generated pressure on 71.4 of Jimmy Garoppolo's dropbacks, the highest pressure rate by a defense in a game since 2018.
Wow!
So basically, they're the 85 Bears if we're going off that statistic. But I'm going to ask you, Broder, because I've been harping on it, and we've all kind of came to the conclusion that you just need a dude. You need a dude on this defensive line. Like Aleem's coming along. Of course, Aiden has won a couple games without a sack, but he'll be fine. I'm not concerned about him. But you want a guy on the other side of Aiden that you can consistently depend. I mean, J.O. yesterday was making plays, but that's not a guy that every single week you can book him for a half a sack or a sack. Where are you at with the trade deadline today? Even though the most pressures on a drop back since 2018 is, not saying it's Fugazi, but where are you at? Do they still need some help on that defensive line?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And they've performed, and they've had their biggest games probably against the worst 3 to 4 teams on their schedule in terms of getting pressure and then getting sacks on the quarterback. They need that extra man to help out Aiden Hutchinson. And almost watching Max Crosby and the Raiders confirms it a little more for me. Just seeing how little help he had, what a dominant player Max Crosby is and can be, but he didn't have any help, and we were able to run all over them. We were able to do whatever we want. You need someone else on that other side, or even some more pressure up the middle, whether that's Broderick Martin or you go out and get you another veteran. I definitely do think you need to add somebody. Aiden, he just needs another piece on that other side. It'll bring the best out of him too. It it's something, if you want to go up against the Eagles, against the 49ers, these offensive lines that you're going to see in the playoffs, if that's your aspirations, you need help.
No doubt about it.
Yes, and one other player that I want to get to, because I feel like he is having one of the quietest great seasons I can remember in recent memory. Amon-Ra St. Brown with just another ho-hum 100-yard game was a huge factor in the first half, was Jared Goff's favorite target. I think he had 94 first-half receiving yards, and has clearly established himself as a top 10 receiver in the NFL, and climbing the list, by the way. He's currently 6th in the NFL in receptions, tied for 6th, and 6th in receiving yards. So how important was Amon-Ra St. Brown to the team's success last night, and how important will he be moving forward?
That's Mr. 1400.
Yes.
Correction.
Hey, he's getting
Mr.
1400. Got that pace going.
Not Mr. 17.5?
Well,
was it Young Jeezy?
Well, this time it's Mr. 1400.
Yeah.
His own off of it.
I think yesterday, especially in the first half, and just in general, you can't underscore the importance of Amon-Ra St. Brown to this team and to this offense. It seems like whenever they need a first down, whenever they need just a big catch to either keep the chains moving or just keep the drive going, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown that they look for, that Jared Goff is able to find. Sam Laporta is starting to turn into a role similar to that too, where he's just so reliable, and Jared Goff is just feeding him. He had 8 catches yesterday. But all those 5, I think it was 5 out of Amon-Ra St. Brown's 6 catches in the first half were all, I don't know if they were all chain movers, but they were all big catches that kept those drives going. So him playing, Dan Campbell said after the game, he didn't feel good going into that game. He's battling some illness, but he went out there and he gave his best effort. That's the kind of leader you want on this team, who's not going to sit out if he's not feeling so great. He came out and performed to get another 100-yard performance just like that.
Yeah, and this is a guy, too, like the production. He has the most 100-yard games through any Lions player through his first career.
Really?
Or first, 3 career seasons, I believe it is. He's up there with Kelvin, like just to give you an idea. And Kelvin's my favorite player of all time, but there's a reason why I got the Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey, guys. It's because, I don't really buy jerseys a ton. Like I'll have, by the way, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got a Killian Hayes jersey.
Hey.
It is what it is. I bought it when he was drafted, Maybe I'm holding on to it. Maybe it'll be something. But I don't typically buy a ton of other jerseys, but I have bought a Kelvin Johnson jersey. I bought an Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. He's a stud. Like, he's a guy that is going to make an all-pro team. He's a guy that is capable of getting 1,400 yards. And the question is, will he ever get the respect he deserves? I think it's just going to take time because in a small market like Detroit, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he's doing this in New York or he's doing this in L.A., he's already got the recognition, brother.
Yeah.
But he's playing for a smaller market. He's got to go earn it, which is unfortunate, but he'll get there eventually. There's an all-pro coming for Amon-Ra St. Brown eventually.
Without a doubt. And I think Cooper Kupp's receiver like Cooper Kupp started to pave the way for that type of receiver, a possession receiver, a strong route runner that's maybe not the deep threat that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are, but a guy who wins with physicality, who wins with just being tougher than the cornerback across from him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we all know, we see it here in Detroit. He's gonna perform each and every night. It's just, when is he gonna earn that respect? What do outside eyes need to see to prove that he's an upper echelon receiver? We all believe it.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the rest of the world. I think last night, as small of a sample size it was, I think that was a good step in that direction for the world to see Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, St. Brown coming in after that was a flu game.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a hangover game.
Yeah.
There's a difference, okay?
It's not a
an actual
flugazi.
flu game. Yeah, no fugazi.
No
not
flugazi.
even sound like what you did there, brother. I want to ask you though, moving forward.
Yeah.
And Chef Talks asks, why did Detroit become a small market? I didn't mean small market, but compared to other big markets like a New York or an LA, that has tons of media covering you walk in the street, they're covering you. It's a little different here in Detroit. That's why the whole grit and being the underdog is important, and they take pride in that. But I want to ask you, moving forward, they got a bye week this week. Of course, next week they travel to LA. In terms of injuries, you're going to get Frank Ragnow back after the bye. You're going to get Jonah Jackson back after the bye. You're going to get Vaitai back after the bye. You're going to get Dave Montgomery back. Could we see a essentially most healthy team since, obviously C.J. Gardner-Johnson won't be there, but for the most part, this will be one of the healthiest parts of the season for them.
Yeah, you never want to play to lose or play to avoid injury. That's sort of when injuries happen. But this second half of the year, knock on wood, it's going to come down a lot to the coaching staff and how they're managing these injuries or how they're managing their players and preventing injury. Because if they find that right balance of going for that top seed in the NFC, and making sure that the David Montgomerys of the team, the offensive linemen, making sure their usage is controlled enough with that expectation of making it to the playoffs. A lot of that pressure is going to fall on the coaching staff and how they manage it. But you're right. Those guys should be coming back, especially after this bye week. Hopefully most of them are back. It's one of those things. They're going into the easiest part of the schedule, and they're getting healthy. That should be a scary thing for their opponents moving forward.
I need CD Deuce.
Yeah.
He needs to come back soon.
Yes.
We'll see with that. I hope he comes back for the playoffs. But good stuff, Broder. I appreciate you. You do a great job, man.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Sam.
Shout out Woodward, Maine.
Thanks.
Broder's on everything. Woodward, Maine. You can check them out before the morning show when they record, of course, Woodward Nights. You guys will be live today, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. with the boys, Booner, Broder, Jalen, Nick. The guys will be holding it down. Appreciate you, Broder. And again, we got to do this every single Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesdays with Broder. You know what time it is. All right. We got to hear from our friends over at Premier Pet really quickly, Sam Flannel.
Of course, when it comes to your pet, don't settle. I don't settle when it comes to my golden retriever, Jake, and my orange cat, Milo. Give your pet the best like I give my pet the best. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply, give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Calling all landscapers. This is Darren McCarty. I'm at Outdoor Equipment Co. How would you like to landscape like a legend? How about a bad boy zero turn? And even a chainsaw. And even a weed whipper. Whether you landscape for your job or landscape for fun, get all your equipment from Outdoor Equip Co., the official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan grown, family owned. OutdoorEquipCo.com.
Woodward Sports own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
How would you like to win a $100K Vegas getaway? Take your friends and live it up in the city that never sleeps. It's the Centron Energy Drink It and Live It sweepstakes. Purchase a 24-pack today and enter for your chance to win. Register at drinkcentron.com/Vegas and buy Centron at your local Myers store. Centron, the healthier energy drink with great taste. Look good, feel great, and be the best version of yourself. Once again, that website, drinkcentron.com/Vegas.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, you special SOB. We're going to talk about you because he deserves to be talked about for what he did yesterday against the Raiders. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs' stat line. Yeah, 26 carries. 26, I said that correctly. 26 carries for $152, 5.8 yards per carry. And there's the next gen little sheet there. It says, you know, all the routes and everything. I love when next gen does stuff like that. And look at that, between the tackles, which is something that people criticize for Jahmyr Gibbs on. He was making plays, explosive runs. Everything we were sold before the draft is coming into fruition. And by the way, one thing I did ask for with Jahmyr, and not just Jahmyr, but from the Lions, for this pick to make sense, for you to draft a guy like Jahmyr at 12, you have to use him as a receiver. That's the selling point for me, Sam Flannel. If he's a receiver, running back, he's an overall weapon, then a lot of people, it's easier to digest the pick. That was it for me, and we're seeing it. Guys, the last, and I just mentioned it last segment, last two games for Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 targets, 14 catches for 95 yards, about 7 yards per reception. He's making plays. You look at his stat line against the Raiders, and this is per Colton Pouncey. Jahmyr Gibbs had more total yards, 189, than the Raiders had offensively.
Wasn't even close.
157.
Yeah.
You heard that correctly. Ja had more yards, total yards, than the Raiders did as a team offensively. Now, you look at some of the other interesting things about Jahmyr Gibbs, and what really impresses me the most is what he's been doing being RB1. Right, you were drafted him. He's a change of pace back. Him and David Montgomery are supposed to be the duo. But this is a guy that, since David went down, has had to step up, and he's answered the call. Last 4 games for him, with David as well in that 4-game stretch. He's averaging 85 yards roughly per game, 5.5 yards per carry, about 15 and a half attempts. And then you look at the passing side of things, or what he's doing in the receiving game, 27 receiving yards about per game. He's doing it all, Sam, and you're seeing it. It's not just what he's doing, it's how he's doing it between the tackles, like I said earlier, the things that people criticized him for during the season. He is finally coming into his own and at a perfect time, right when the Lions needed him.
You know, this may sound like an exaggeration. I may be kind of high off of the win and high off of that great performance. But what I saw last night from Jahmyr Gibbs, that was special. That is the number 12 overall pick. That is a guy that can, and when you're number 12 overall pick, this is your expectation at some point. This is a guy that can be the best running back in the league someday. This is a guy that can have a better career than Bijan Robinson, that can be better than Bijan Robinson this season. And to top this all off, and a lot of you aren't going to like this initially, but just stay with me, especially you, Lucas Klotz. Jahmyr Gibbs is a better running back right now than David Montgomery is, ever has been, and ever will be. I repeat, Jahmyr Gibbs right now is a better running back than David Montgomery currently is, ever has been, and ever will be. Jahmyr Gibbs had 26 carries for 152 yards. David Montgomery has never had a game that good in his entire career. And think about this. Jahmyr Gibbs carried the ball 26 times. Bijan Robinson's season high, 19. Jahmyr Gibbs, 152 rushing yards. Bijan Robinson's season high, 124. That's the thing. Those are the type of games that can completely change someone's perception about somebody, because one of the things that I was upset about with the pick and kind of the discourse surrounding him is nobody seemed to expect this from him. I didn't know if he could do it. I saw flashes of it against Atlanta with 17 carries for 80 yards, and I saw flashes of it at Baltimore when he was really the only bright spot. But what this game kind of did was prove that Baltimore game at the end, that wasn't a fluke. That wasn't when Baltimore didn't care. That wasn't just like when they were ahead 35-0. Those numbers don't really matter. Jahmyr Gibbs was able to do that when they did matter on Monday Night Football in a game in which they really needed someone to step up and somebody to really play big, and it was Jahmyr Gibbs. He was the best player on the field that day. The best player on the entire football field was Jahmyr Gibbs.
Let's watch the Demo slander, though.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
my point here is I will agree with you that Jahmyr Gibbs is the more talented running back, but a perfect example of where David Montgomery was an essential player to this team is in the red zone last night.
Yeah.
If David Montgomery is in the red zone, the Lions don't get cute. They're just playing a physical brand of football. David Montgomery probably has 2 touchdowns if he plays last night. And I'm not discrediting Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was the best player on the field yesterday. But I think it's just kind of weird. It's like when you were comparing Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery. Like, they're just 2 completely different styles of runner. Jahmyr's better explosive back, but if I need to get 5 yards and keep the chains moving, I'm going with David Montgomery every time.
It's apples to orange. It's just not the same. But I get what you were trying to. Like, Jahmyr is the more talented back. I would agree with you there. But D-Mont and what he can do, those guys play well with each other.
I think
they're good working with each other.
I think after last night, it's fair to call it close, but to say that he's clearly better than David Montgomery right now, I think is a little extreme. But you're going to be proven right on that with time. I'm not going to deny that.
And that's the thing. I guess what I was most impressed with when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, and granted, the offensive line did a kind of a ragtag offensive line, did a phenomenal job blocking, and I will admit that 100%. But I love the way that Jahmyr Gibbs was able to hit the holes and then bounce it outside. I mean, that's how he scored his touchdown touchdown. That's how he had another long run at the beginning of the game. And he was consistently getting those 6-yard runs, 7-yard runs, 9-yard runs. It seemed like, if I can recall, there was one in which it looked like he was about to break it, but it was a shoestring tackle. That was just all night, just chunk plays after chunk plays, a long touchdown run. Again, that's, to me, and that's the thing, Jahmyr Gibbs, when you're the number 12 overall pick, you are expected to be this dominant running back. And what I saw last night is somebody that can be the best running back in the NFL in a few years. I never thought that from him. And now I think it might be possible. I'm not calling for it, but I mean, I even compared him to Bijan Robinson. They're basically having similar seasons now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the whole people, jumping to conclusions right when Bijan got his start and he got a ton of workload early on. He was making plays. I get all that. But Jahmyr, it's not about how you start always, it's about how you finish. And Jahmyr Gibbs, by the end of the season, I think that conversation will be, and I love Bijan before the draft, but Jahmyr Gibbs is a hell of a player. And that's really what the most impressive thing is. And they were lining him up in the slot. I mean, he's an all-around weapon. And that's what, for me, makes this pick. When people question it, I'm like, listen, if he's a weapon, I'm cool with it. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it. And by the way, all the injuries they had last night to the offensive line, they lost Coyote. Dan Skipper comes in, did not matter.
Shout out Hank Fraley.
Hank Fraley's a hell of a coach. That's good you brought that up. The other thing is, excuse me, they had injuries to the interior of their offensive line. They had Jonah Jackson out, Frank Ragnow out, Vaitai out. They had subs in all around on the interior. They still ran Gibbs up the middle.
Sure.
And he still made plays. So it's credit to those guys for blocking. But even with a banged-up offensive line, they ran the football. I believe he had like 40-ish yards at half, Jahmyr Gibbs. And in the second half, when they needed him, you wore down the Raiders' defense with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Sure.
5'9" Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well,
he made those dudes pay. And I know it's the Raiders' defense. They were 24th in the league yesterday, but I don't give a damn. Because if he didn't have a great game, people will be talking about it. So the fact that he did show out and had over 200 yards from scrimmage?
189.
189, basically, almost 200 yards from scrimmage yards? Yeah. That's a hell of a game from Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yes.
Hell of a game.
Yes, and I see a lot of people in the chat who don't they think that I'm tearing down David Montgomery. And I promise you that I am not. But here's the reality of the situation. Jahmyr Gibbs is a supreme talent, and you saw that yesterday. Is David Montgomery a supreme talent? I would argue towards no. I would argue that he's a guy, his ceiling is maybe a top 10 running back in the NFL. Guys, his career high this season, and I know it's kind of misleading, is 1,070. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, shoot, he might get it this year if he keeps getting the usage. I know David Montgomery is going to come back, but my point was not to tear down David Montgomery. My point is to say that we should want, as Lions fans, for Jahmyr Gibbs to be the better running back. We should want it to be clear as day at the end of this year. It's not tearing down David Montgomery. I had questions, and I will get on the stand to say, and I might be wrong, of whether Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be great and whether or not he was going to be a star. And after what I saw last night, especially with him carrying the whole workload, getting 31 touches, including 26 carries. And it wasn't like they were all sweeps or anything like that. They were runs up the middle. You saw his vision. You saw his ability to get to the second level and bounce it back. You saw his explosiveness, and you saw his toughness. That, to me, is the recipe for a guy who can be the best running back in the league. I know that may sound a little bit hyperbolic, but let me just say this as well, and this is another crazy stat from last night. Jahmyr Gibbs is 152 rushing yards last night. That was the 6th highest total any running back has ever had this year. And out of those 6, Jahmyr Gibbs had the high for receiving yards in those respective games. Jahmyr Gibbs had one of the best performances any running back has had all season last night. And I think that's something that he can duplicate. And I think that's why he is already better than David Montgomery and will continue to ascend.
And I get what you're trying to say, but I guess the way I'm looking at it is, Sam, is the game is slowing down for Jahmyr. So when David gets back, those two are going to thrive together.
They will. And I never said they wouldn't.
And they're different. They play different roles. So it's not even about who's better, who gives a shit. Like, those guys together are going to do big things. Like, they are. Now that Jahmyr even mentioned in the postgame with talking to the media, like, the game slowed down. There's a lot of things that I wasn't seeing early on in the season that I'm seeing now. And that's only going to benefit the Lions. And then you got a big bruiser coming back in David Montgomery. Like, it's going to benefit him. Do you want Jahmyr to get 30 touches a game?
God, no.
No. But the fact that they needed him, and he did that, carried a lot of the offensive workload on his shoulders, and they won on the back, a lot of it in the second half because of Jahmyr, That's a hell of a performance, man. A hell of a performance.
Especially after following it up against how he did in the Ravens last week, because people are going to be like, oh, it's the Raiders' defense. They're terrible, which they are. I'm not going to say that they're not, and it probably had.
But if he struggled, everyone would talk about it.
Exactly. And then he goes against Atlanta Falcons, and he had 81 rushing yards there. And how did he have 83 last week against the Ravens, or was it 83 total yards? I can't remember.
Yeah, he had his rushing yards, I think, was in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, so I think he had 83 total yards against the Raiders defense, which is a majority in the second half. So Jahmyr Gibbs, it doesn't really matter. So that's the thing with Jahmyr Gibbs, to Flannel's point, with how high-end talent he is. A lot of the times, it does not matter what defense he's going to, because if he gets in the open field against anybody, he's going to make them look stupid. So that's why, to Flannel's point, and I'm not agreeing with him just yet, but one day, Jahmyr Gibbs, it could be even by the end of the season, will be better than David Montgomery's, because he's a mismatch on whoever's in front of him.
Yeah, he's a weapon, and he's a guy that I think will cause havoc in this league for quite some time. But let's go to break. When we get back, we'll talk about Ali McNeil, Sam Flannel's guy as well. Yep. He had a big game yesterday. We'll talk about him, the defensive line, the performance, and of course, our reaction to that. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Planet Fitness, because it is the home of the judgment-free zone where anybody, and I mean anybody, can feel comfortable and work on their fitness goals. At Planet Fitness, you'll experience this squeaky clean gym that it is, that has tons of equipment, a full-body workout in just 30 minutes, and all memberships include fitness training. You get all this for just $10 a month. No commitment, no matter where you are. There's a Planet Fitness close by. There are more than 50 in Metro Detroit and thousands more throughout the world.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Let me tell you about our friends over at the Academy of Warren, the brand new state-of-the-art sports dome field house that has a regulation basketball court, volleyball court, and, of course, a soccer field that can be used on 7-on-7 football. I can just cook up and shred Lucas Klotz on that turf.
Relax.
You talk about small classroom sizes, free breakfast and lunch, futuristic media center, and so much more. Now accepting new enrollment. Go to academywarren.net.
You'd make me look like Jake Bobo.
Yeah, you'd be Jake Bobo on me, that's for sure. I'd be, how's Riley Moss doing? Is he?
Dude, I don't even heard his name, and I would have third-round pick, letting us down. Let us white DBs down.
Hey, he ain't going to be no Cooper DeJean, though.
No.
Cooper DeJean might be a player. He might be a player in the NFL, not even mind.
All right, we're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. It's a Victory Tuesday on Halloween. How fitting, man. I love it. It's a great day. Thank you guys for joining the show. If you haven't already, hit the like button. We're over 150 likes. Let's try to get to 200 by the end of the first hour. So let's get into it. Defensively, this team looked way better than they did last week, Sam Flannel. Yeah. And they did something they weren't able to do last week. And, of course, you got a statue in Jimmy G. And that's why me and Booner, we went all in on that sack bet because we knew Jimmy G is a statue.
Well, I mean,
he's a statue, and they did exactly what they were able to do, or should have done, and that's get after the quarterback and wreak havoc. And they did that. And Lee McNeil, 2 sacks.
Yeah, and then the funny thing last week was I know that the Ravens, they really got after Jared Goff, and a lot of us Lions fans complained, and maybe rightfully so, that Jared Goff struggles to extend plays and can be a bit of a statue, but he is nothing compared to Jimmy Garoppolo. Once you get a little bit of pressure on him, once the pocket collapses, he is going down, and he's not even going to put up much of of a fight. And yeah, the Lions, their defense definitely had a get-right game. And how about Ali McNeil? Ali McNeil, and I know this is kind of going to sound like a funny stat, but I think it really makes sense. In the good games that Ali McNeil has played, he's looked like an all-pro. It's just against the Ravens and against the Seahawks. They were total team defensive losses, but Ali McNeil has been absolutely dominant this season as a whole. And now he has 4 sacks on the season, which is his career high. And then you look at Alex Anzalone, he had 2 himself. He has 3 sacks on the season, which is also his career high. I love Lions players setting their career high in sacks. I love when that happens this time of year. That is a beautiful thing. And you got Julian Okwara, of course, who,
J.O.
hey, you know what? If he can step up and make some big plays, then that can give Hayden Hutchinson some help as well, and Tracy Walker. I love the way that this defense completely bounced back and completely had a get-right game. And because I'm me, and because this is going to be as a shock to absolutely no one, I love how now when you look at the team defensive stats, you're going to see the Lions climbing on up when it comes to scoring defense, except Jared Goff gave them a pick 6, but still their scoring defense is going to go up. Their rushing defense might actually go down a little bit, but that's fine. Their pass defense is going to go up, and their total yards defense is going to go up. I guess the question is, and we'll talk about it later, should we be fooled into thinking this is enough of a pass rush? But against inferior teams, they can get after the quarterback. They've done it in multiple games.
Yeah, 6 sacks on the day yesterday. And the interesting thing about that, Sam, is they did it without Aiden Hutchinson getting home. I mean, he was getting pressures. I'm not saying Aiden didn't make any impact, but he hasn't had a sack, I believe, in the last 3 games.
Yeah, 3.
He hasn't had a sack since Carolina, but still, they're finding ways to get to the quarterback, and that's credit to Aaron Glenn. They're finding different blitz packages. I mean, you got Tracy Walker coming off the edge. You got Alex Anzalone coming off the edge. You got Jack Campbell coming off the edge, of course. Julian Okwara, who I've actually been a big fan of. He's coming off the edge. There you go. There's the pressure leaders. Look at that. Ali McNeil led the team in pressures. Alex Anzalone, Aiden with 5, Julian Okwara, and Derek Barnes. Again, just finding ways to blitz the quarterback. And that's what this league is. You get pressure. That's a lot of it, especially with a secondary especially for the Lions. They've been a little inconsistent at times, but still, when you're getting home like they were, or at least getting pressures. I know Neil, he always says, I'm sick of the pressures, get sacks. Pressures do matter, though.
Yeah.
You put pressure on a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, to your point, it changes things. And you look at the sacks so far on the Lions, and this was interesting, I thought. Because like you said, Sam, we're going to talk more about it at 9:16, talk about the Leonard Williams trade and should the Lions still be aggressive in acquiring a defensive lineman. They have more sacks, the Lions do, as a team. They have 21 on the season. They have more sacks than the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Cleveland Browns. I'm just saying, that's the numbers. Now, they might have more talent, more proven players, but that's what you're dealing with right now. More sacks than the 49ers, the Browns, and the Cowboys at this point in the season. And without a premier edge rusher, a big name next to Aiden, they're finding ways to get it done, and that's credit to Aaron Glenn.
Bro, do you want to hear the craziest stat of them all? Even crazier than the stat that you just mentioned. Guys, are you sitting down? Ali McNeil has more sacks this season than Nick Bosa. So therefore, Ali McNeil. No, I'm kidding.
There's a lot of context, but still,
there's a lot of context. But that's the thing. I think we all agree, and we're going to talk about it more later, that we would like to see the Lions add someone to complement Aiden Hutchinson, maybe on the book end. But at least in the time being, at least in the regular season, against a lot of inferior opponents, which the Lions are definitely going to be playing many of those, this pass rush is able to get home. And I know that Aiden Hutchinson, we all know that he's going to put up his numbers. And I remember one sack in particular that Alex Anzalone got. You could have credited that one just as much to Aiden Hutchinson because of the way he was able to collapse the pocket. And of course, you know what happens to Jimmy G when the pocket is collapsed. He goes down, and Alex Anzalone got the sack. But you got to give credit to a guy like Ali McNeil, who is becoming quite the pass rushing dynamo at the defensive tackle, at least in spurts. I mean, 4 sacks is 4 sacks. You've got Alex Anzalone, who I would say blitzing and rushing the passer wasn't ever really as big a part of his game, but this year he's doing it.
He's doing it.
It's not like they have that bookend pass rusher who you can count on, but you've had a lot of guys who have made some contributions, like a Julian Okwara, for example, and even a Tracy Walker, someone we expected to see him rush the quarterback and blitz a little bit more often, and he got home. So at least against these inferior opponents, I'm not worried about the line. When it comes to help, and we'll talk about it more later, to me it's more about the playoffs.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm glad that's a great segue because I want to ask you, Lucas, too, and JB, you could chime in as well. The whole thing with getting more help, and I don't want to give too much away, but the one thing me and Booner kind of talked about this yesterday, and I think you would agree too, when they face mobile quarterbacks, that's where the struggle comes to getting after them and getting sacks. I get all that. Like Lamar Jackson, he's a hard guy to bring down. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a statue. There's a difference. I think with guys like Jimmy G or statues or guys that are standing in the pocket or bad offensive lines, they can take advantage of them. But once you face a Brock Purdy, a Jalen Hurts, guys that are a little more mobile, even a Dak Prescott lately has been more mobile. You got to have another guy. That's at least how I feel. But they're good enough and they got the job done. That's all that matters.
They were good enough and they got the job done against the Las Vegas Raiders. This is my concern. Like you said, Jimmy G's a statue, and you can get, when it comes with the quarterback pressure, even pressure from the inside, that's the most disruptive pressure for a quarterback is when you get pressure from the inside. The other thing that worries me is actually in that second half, especially in the Raiders scoring drive, when they march down the field with Josh Jacobs, I think especially when the playoff times, we're going to be running the ball more, San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, I do still think they have to add somebody to help with the run as well. I think we're still a little bit too confident in the Lions' run defense. I'm not saying it's a bad run defense, but that is not a good Las Vegas Raiders team, and the fact that Josh Jacobs in the 32nd ranked run offense did that last night makes me a little concerned. I'm not panicking by any means. I'm not hitting a panic button. But if you want to go and you want to stop Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, if you want to stop Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, and the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, they need to add somebody else either on the interior or exterior right.
Yeah, and if you're looking for I would say a negative from last night's win, it's the fact that, remember when I was talking about how all the how all the defensive statistics are going to go up except for the rush defense. You could argue that Josh Jacobs had his best game of the season, and obviously it didn't hurt the Lions at all because they won and because their quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo and he was terrible and he was getting pressured all night, but we've kind of had this discussion before. The Lions' rush defense, at least statistically, has been their strongest, the strongest part of their defense, arguably even the strongest part of their team when it comes to numbers versus the rest of the league. But is it something that's sustainable? Is the bottom eventually going to fall out? Are they going to regress to the mean a little bit? I don't know, because the Raiders, they were the worst rushing offense in the NFL, and they did run the ball fairly effectively, especially on that touchdown drive, especially as they got closer to the red zone.
I already see people doing it in the chat saying Josh Jacobs is a monster. Josh Jacobs did have an extremely elite year last year, but that was the only time Josh Jacobs has ever showed up for 16 games, 17 games of the season, and shocker, it's in a contract year. Now he has a bad O-line, and you can really see Josh Jacobs knows how to break one tackle, but when you talk about getting to the second level, like the Christian McCaffreys do, that's where Josh Jacobs lacks. So when I see Josh Jacobs getting 5-6 yards per carry, yes, it does worry me, and stopping an elite run team. I think the Lions can go and shut down a bunch of good run teams, but when you have an elite offense coming in with an elite offensive line, an elite running back, it does worry me a little bit when you talk about it in playoff situations. This is a good run defense. I want to see have a great run defense because, again, they have a good secondary, not a great secondary. I think on the defensive ball, you got to make something great if you want to be a Super Bowl contender.
And I felt like a lot of those yards, Lucas, came from one drive. Like Josh Jacobs, there was one drive where he was eating, but after that, it was kind of.
There was a couple in the second half even where I was like, oh God.
But JB Stallions, as well, I don't want you to give away too much. You're obviously under investigation for different accusations. I get all of that, but
appreciate that.
But your thoughts on Lee McNeil and this defensive line? What's your confidence level in these guys?
No, last night definitely impressed a lot of people, but I still have to agree with you guys as well. There is going to be a need for some help. These mobile quarterbacks seem to be a huge problem for us, and if we want to make a deep run in the playoffs, you're going to have to somehow contain these guys, which I think that is going to be the biggest problem, the biggest takeaway that we need to come at this trade deadline. But I honestly don't think that you're going to get anything from this trade deadline. I think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell feel confident in the team that they have around them, which is fine, but at some point in time, you're going to need to improve and get better. And not to say that these guys aren't getting better game by game, but you just need that instant help right there and right then and right there. And honestly, Yeah, these mobile quarterbacks are going to be a bit of an issue for us. But last night, I don't want to take away from last night. It was very impressive.
Like, and I get what Lucas was saying too. Like, just with these offense, I mean, you're going against the 49ers, the Eagles. Like, that's where you're aiming.
Yeah,
so those are damn good offensive lines.
Like, if the Green Bay Packers, when they roll into town on Thanksgiving, I'm not going to have any concern that in that game if we don't trade for anybody. That's not when the concern's going to come. It's going to come in the playoffs when it's cold, possibly on the road, and you just need a guy that can shut down that run game when Hutch is getting doubled on the inside, and that I'm just not sure they have.
What the hell is this?
I just wanted to say one thing, and I'll let you boys get back to your show. But back in my day, the Lions had one player by the name of Barry Sanders.
They did.
I know you guys, you whippersnappers, didn't get to see him.
Yep.
But man, was he something. He was special. He went out there and made plays, and guess what? Jameer Gibbs did his best Barry Sanders impersonation last night.
He did. No, for real, he did.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, well, Danny, I got to ask you, too. This team is different, and you know this. Like, you got your scotch, you got the stogie.
Fucking 8:59 in the morning.
I know,
dude.
this guy is a fucking beast.
I'm retired. I can do what I want.
That's fair. I'm trying to come at you, but how different is it, Danny?
It feels like 57. I tell you what, I was alive for that. I saw that happen. It feels like 57.
Yep.
Haven't felt the Lions team like this in my 72 years of life. Feels different. Dan Campbell has these boys buzzing.
Hey, we need Danny Raxter out there on the sideline, dude. He could bring the juice. They need to. Hey, Danny Raxter, they could have used you on the offensive line.
Yeah,
he can be the Lions Connor Stallion.
I used to deliver the mail. The Lions were delivering the mail last night.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right, well, thank you, Danny Raxter, joining us for a segment. Isn't that great? All right, let's go to break. When we get back, we'll talk a little more Lions. We'll get into some other takeaways, and I got some things that I got to tell the people. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Swiss Insurance.
Absolutely. Do you have football on the brain? Fall ushers in college and professional football, and this year has been pretty awesome. Fall is also a perfect time to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
And then after that, you head over to Feldman Chevrolet. Detroit's #1 Chevy dealer. They got 18 locations. There's a Feldman dealership in your backyard. Visit feldmanauto.com to find the location nearest to you. Catch Woodward Sports Live from Feldman Chevrolet every other Monday to recap Lions victories.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel. Come hang with the Woodward Sports crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays. Join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel.
Just in time for football season, Glorious Cannabis is dropping a brand new ice water bubble hash infused pre-roll called Honolulu Blue. Smells so good, it's like the whiff of the first playoff win in 31 years. It's a gassy, aggressive strain named in honor of our Detroit football team. If you haven't had one of these ice water pre-rolls, you are missing out. It is so smooth. Find them at a Dispo dispensary near you. For 25% off, use hand signal. You guys, there's no hand signals.
Oh, okay, all right.
There's no hand trade signals on this. Come on, you guys. All right. For 25% off, use code word Woodward Glorious. Once again, that website, gloriouscanna.com. Where are the hand signals? Come on.
Yeah,
now.
come on. Get it together. JB Stallions has a job to do. He's getting paid. Like, guy's got to get his job done. I appreciate you. JB, we got to get JB photoshopped and like a picture of Connor Stallions on the side. And get JB just behind Jim Harbaugh, just sitting there all posted up.
Just win, baby.
Ryan, we got to cook some up. Oh, look at that. All right.
That'd be JB if he went to a Chiefs game looking up in the suite.
Yeah. Chiefs game. Yeah. He's like, what do you see, JB? Oh, I got it. Don't worry about it.
That's all I see.
I do want to talk more about some of the takeaways I have because, again, like this game, the Lions, the Detroit Lions won a football game not playing their best offensively. I mean, the 2 turnovers, 1 for 5 in the red zone. They still won by 2 scores. And this game should have never been as close as it was. Like, we all know that. And you watch the football game itself. You know what the good news is, though? And I mentioned this with Broder. You're 6-2. You're second in the NFC right now behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl last year. And you're going into a bye week with a chance for this team to get 100% healthy, or at least for the most part. Now, obviously, some guys are still out, but a majority of the guys will be coming back that did not play last night. That's the takeaway. Frank Ragnow will be back. Jonah Jackson will be back. David Montgomery will be back. Guys that are banged up will be healthier. I mean, you know in the NFL, you're either hurt or you're injured. That's how this works. Now, if you have a bye week, it comes at a perfect time for the Detroit Lions. And the Lions players have a chance to get back to full strength offensively. And we talk about Jared Goff. I mean, and by the way, it's 3 turnovers. Excuse me, 3 turnovers because Reynolds fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pick by Jared. 3 turnovers, which is even more impressive. 3 turnovers, 1 for 5 in the red zone. The game should have been 40-something to 14, 40-something to 7 if Jared doesn't throw the pick. It should have been an absolute blowout. But regardless, this is a damn good football team. It is. And we've never, ever, even after the Ravens lost, what did I say that Monday morning or that Tuesday morning, Monday and Tuesday and all week? That I'm not going to panic. It was a disgusting loss. I'm not going to take that away. It was a bad loss from the Lions. But it doesn't all of a sudden mean they're a bad football team. That's not how the league works. Like, the 49ers just lost 3 straight. They're still good. Surprise. Like, these things happen. Now, is there cause for concern? Yeah. But they responded in the right way. They took care of a team that's inferior, a team that's terrible, a team that has not scored 20 all but once this season. And the Lions didn't let them do it again. And they only scored 14 because of their defense. They would only scored 7. So everything we talked about happened. Now, you talk about moving forward. Like this team, when they were 5-1, when they were majority healthy before all the other stuff happened, that's coming back. Like you got the Chargers coming out the bye week, and listen, the Chargers are one thing. Brandon Staley's one thing, but the Lions have the 4th easiest schedule on paper, right? You look at the schedules, and the NFL is not always on paper, but at least on paper, Sam Flannel, the 4th easiest schedule for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah.
It's in the favor of the Lions to at least not only contend, they're going to win their division, especially now with Kirk Cousins being hurt with an Achilles injury. But they're coming for this NFC. They're going to be in the conversation at the very minimum.
They're coming,
they will.
and I'm going to get to that more later. I think we're going to dedicate a whole segment to that because it is, I would say, more favorable than you guys even know. Like it was actually staggering when I was doing a little bit of, I would say, intel on their schedule versus the other contenders, and I even went into a couple of other teams that you wouldn't think of as contenders. But that's all well and good. I'll get to that in a second. Here's what I liked a lot about that game as well, and we mentioned that it was the score was a lot closer than the actual play on the field was. The Lions dominated that game from start to finish, and one of the reasons why it wasn't a complete blowout was because the Lions did commit some, I would say, bad turnovers. I mean, Josh Reynolds, he had that fumble early on. Josh Reynolds probably had his worst game of the Lions. We were talking about him all year being a bright spot. Josh Reynolds didn't show up yesterday, but that is okay because he fumbled the football. The Raiders got the ball in great field position on the Lions side of the field. And what does Jimmy Garoppolo immediately do? He does what Jimmy G always does. Throws
calls
just
up curb.
Yep. It's just he throws just a duck. What the fuck are you thinking throw? And then Kirby is just right there to pick it off, obviously. And then, of course, when the Lions are ahead 16-7 and they're looking to, I would say, put the dagger in the Raiders, I certainly was kind of kicking back, just like, all right, Lions are going to score a touchdown. They're going to be ahead 23-7, and I'm just going to rest easy the rest of the game. But what actually happens, Jared Goff throws a pick 6, and all of a sudden it's 16-14. And those are the type of plays that I never thought that the Lions were actually going to lose, but as a fan, I was certainly demoralized. I'm like, damn, we got a game, fellas, and I'm sure the Lions teams of years past might have been demoralized, and it might have, I would say, broke their backs, and they might have lost. And even furthermore, when the Lions were about to go ahead 23-14, Craig Reynolds fumbles at the 3-yard line, and obviously anybody who can infer anything and has common sense knows that Craig Reynolds did not fumble that football, or he was down. But technically, I guess they couldn't prove it, and the call on the field stands or whatever. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, these motherfucking Raiders are down 16-14 after playing this terribly and actually have a chance to take the lead. I didn't think it was actually going to happen because the Lions obviously stopped them, but still, the Lions were able to overcome all of those things and still make it a comfortable win. Just with the total yards discrepancy and all of that, and the passing yards and the rushing yards and all of that, the Lions completely dominated this game, and that is what they needed. It doesn't matter that the score didn't quite indicate it. It was a dominant win against an inferior team at home. And you know what else? They're going to have a lot more opportunities to do just that as the season goes along. They just need to keep rolling ahead, keep beating these inferior teams, and maybe fight for that 1 seed.
Yeah, listen, and the whole thing about, and that's what makes you mad sometimes too, Lucas, is the whole, like, who have they played thing. You play who's on your schedule and you take care of them, and they've been doing that.
Yeah, just ask the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, well.
Just say that. But yeah, this is the NFL, guys. And we just said, the Lions played not their best game, and they still came out with a dominating win. I think this is going to help them, especially with the bye week, when they can just truly digest this film and see where they're making flaws at. It'll help them when they go into LA on the road against Justin Herbert, and then just throughout the rest of the season. Like, this will be another game where it's definitely not going to be a bounce back game because they won, but something where they can tighten up all the screws and really respond and show that they are still a complete football team, which I have full faith in them being.
And the interesting part is the Ravens lost. They won by a score against the Cardinals. This league is so are the Cardinals better than the Lions? Like, no. So these things. That's why the whole loss last week. It was just, you know what? The Lions played a trash game all around, from quarterback, offensive line, receivers. I mean, everyone played like trash essentially, besides Jahmyr Gibbs, who got a bunch of yards in garbage time. But regardless, this is still a very good football team. And I get the Seahawks, and someone mentioned it before, they have the tie against the Lions, and they just added Leonard Williams. They want to get better.
Yeah.
And they're going to be in serious contention for that NFC as well. But that's where the schedule comes into play because, again, if you're talking about just trying to lock up the NFC, it is in the Lions' favor, JB. I mean, you got the 4th easiest schedule on paper, and they're getting healthy after the bye week, and then you get to face Brandon Staley. I know I could say Justin Herbert, but it's more fun saying Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. You get to face Brandon Staley and the Chargers. Confidence level should be at a high for Lions fans right now, especially on the trade deadline day. We'll see what happens.
It really should. Like I said, I don't expect much from this trade deadline. Nothing huge anyway, but maybe some small trades here and there. But yeah, the confidence level has to be very high. These guys are going to take a week off, get healthy, get right back to it, and be ready to go against the Chargers or Brandon Staley and the terrible Chargers that they are. I just don't like him as a coach, and he's just leading Justin Herbert down a terrible path. But it should be an easy victory for them against LA. Ooh. Once again, hey, if you held out Devontae Adams, you're probably going to do the same thing to Keenan Allen.
I'll say one thing, though, and I don't know what it is. I hit one bet, now I'm a guru. St. Brown's getting a TD against the Chargers. Book it. That pass defense is last in the league, and he hasn't gotten one in what, a couple games? For St. Brown, he didn't have one yesterday. He didn't have one against the Ravens. He's getting one against the Chargers.
Another 100-yard game, though.
You got to sprinkle in another 100-yard game. Now, of course, that's how that works with St. Brown. He's guaranteed. All right. Terrell saying open up the phone lines. We'll get to the phone lines another day. Right now, it's all just recapping the victory. So today, we're a little busy, but we'll try. I know last night in the postgame, Lucas, you were grinding. You were there. They took a ton of phone calls. You're talking to people from Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii, Alaska, Georgia. On that pregame show, we've had people call from I want to say it was Germany or France or something like that. They've called from overseas. In Australia one time. It was wild. There's a lot of people calling.
Lions fans, man. That is amazing. That's what matters when you start winning football games. And all Lions fans across the world that are kind of hiding and ducking their head, They're coming out and they're confident. That's all that matters. All right, let's get the break. When we come back here, we'll talk a little more about the trade deadline. Of course, that is today at 4 o'clock. Leonard Williams was dealt to the Seahawks for a second and a fifth-round pick yesterday. We'll recap that, talk about some other things. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Big Boy, because burgers and chicken sandwiches are taking over at Big Boy. And to be honest with you, if you're at the game last night and you're a little hungover, that's okay. You head over to Big Boy, you get a pretzel bacon cheeseburger, you got a hot chicken sandwich, you can even get french fries. They got that as well. Or you can get dessert if you went to Dispo and now you want dessert. That's fair. They got it. Reese's Chocolate Peanut Butter Thunder Cake or Satisfy Your Sweet Tooth with Big Boy's Funnel Cake Fries. We'll see you right after the break.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Let's talk about Outdoor Equipment Co., official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan-grown, family-owned. Bad boy mowers, tractors, steel handhelds, and even weed whippers. Liberty trailers, Generac generators, Snow X plows, and salters. Outdoor Equipment Co. has it all. Buy it, rent it at 0% financing. Delivery to your doorstep. All you have to do is visit their website at outdoorequipco.com.
We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thank you guys for tuning in. Chad Fletcher says, Jeff, the Bears beat the Raiders with a tomato can at quarterback. Really not a big deal. We beat them. But Chad, you'd be complaining if they lost. So, there's that too. So, I get what you're saying, but we can't just, okay, guys, it is what it is. Anyway, let's talk about the Pistons.
Just enjoy the journey.
It's about 6-2, Chad. That's what it's about. No one's saying it's a Super Bowl because you beat the Raiders, clearly.
I guess on one hand, I kind of get what he's saying, but on the other hand, I'm like, you must be really fun at parties. It's the NFL. It's hard to win.
Yeah.
It's hard to win in the NFL.
Especially when's the last time the Detroit Lions played on a primetime Monday Night Football game, had a running back run for over 130 total yards, and just in a dominating fashion where they still played sloppy. Like, we're going to celebrate this win. I don't know what to tell you. The city of Detroit doesn't get to do this much, so we're going to do it when we can.
In other news, the Cade Cunningham. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're done. We're talking Lions today, man. I don't give a damn who they faced. All right, let's. I want to bring this up because we got Neil Rule, the great Neil Rule, chiming in. He texted me in the form of a text. We'll call it a Woodward text. And he had a question for the show today, and I'll get to I'll let the people react to this one. Neil says, "Hey Jeff, love the show. Question for Sam. 11 different Lions players have sacks. All I keep hearing about is how Aiden Hutchinson, and he actually did this, needs help. But 11 different players have sacks, and the Lions have more sacks than Dallas, San Francisco, Cleveland, etc. So my question is, when does Hutch help the other 10 guys that have sacks? Thanks, Jeff. Neil in the hills of Washington Township." And by the way, I'll let Sam go in it because obviously I disagree with, but you can take this one, Sam.
Who leads the team in sacks, Neil Rule? It's Aiden Hutchinson. He has 4.5. It's just, I don't understand how after this game you're taking pot shots at Aiden. He played very well last night. As you could see, if you watch the show on this graphic, that Aiden Hutchinson did have 5 pressures. He did make it possible for Alex Anzalone to get home on at least one of them. And Aiden Hutchinson is still having a Pro Bowl level season. People got so upset with me that I forgot what game it was. It was JMO's first game back when I was dissing him for having 2 catches and 2 yards, but it's like, but the Lions still won. And I actually understand people's sentiment when it comes to that. But now when it's Aiden Hutchinson, you just have the gall, the unmitigated gall, just to basically say that Aiden Hutchinson isn't helping anybody else out, that Aiden Hutchinson is somehow less than because he didn't get a sack. That is such blasphemous, and if anybody in the chat actually eats this up like the Neil bots that some of you are, then shame on you. Shame on you to this point, because this is the same Neil Rule that capes up for Jameson Williams like he's his son or something like that. When in 4 games this season, Jameson Williams has 6 receptions for 71 yards. Aiden Hutchinson has 4.5 sacks, and he's about to make a goddamn Pro Bowl. Last season, he led all rookies in sacks. Why are you taking shots at Aiden Hutchinson? It's the most unnecessary thing I've ever seen in my life. You're talking that I'm preying on Jameson Williams' downfall. You're preying on Hutch's downfall. It's the most ridiculous, out-of-pocket thing that I've ever heard in my goddamn life. And the fact that you're allowed to spew this is insane. You should be medicated, Neil Rule.
Get him
medicated.
Well, the other thing, and Neil just texted me. He says he's going to go a month without a sack. And by the way, let me say my thoughts on this, and Lucas, you could chime in. Couldn't you say the same thing? And this isn't me, trust me, I love JMO, but to Neil Rule, couldn't you say, I see all these guys getting catches. Sam Laporta's getting all these catches. Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where's Jameson at? Everybody else is getting catches.
You didn't think of that, did you, Neil
Where's
Rule?
Jameson at? I mean, but again, I love JMO, but I could use that same argument against you, Neil Rule. So I get what he's trying to say. Aiden still had 5 pressures, and I know how Neil feels about pressures, but I'm a little different. But Lucas Klotz, what do you think about this?
It's got to be just a troll flannel. At this point, that's what it's got to be. Because I don't know how you can actually think that. Let's go around the room. We'll have a little experiment. I want you to say I if you believe Kayvon Thibodeau is better than Aiden Hutchinson.
He's a good player, but he's not.
Quiet room.
He's a good player.
And Kayvon Thibodeau has more sacks than Aiden Hutchinson. I wonder why.
I mean, let's be honest,
Who do they have in the middle?
Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence, he was a walking double team every single play.
Who did they just trade away? Leonard Williams, another interior guy who used to be on the edge, so he knows how to get to the pass rusher. If we look around the league, and we've said it 1,000 times, but yet it's still not clicking for some people, to be good, you can be yourself, but to take it to an elite level, you need a team around you. If you want to be elite at anything, you need help around you, because football is a team game. Aiden Hutchinson is getting double teamed every time off the ball. He's getting chipped and blocked by the tackle every time, and then he's got to face a running back. So sometimes he's facing 3 guys in one rush. That's why Aleem McNeil, he looks so good this season. Obviously, that's Aleem's credit too. But Aiden Hutchinson, if Aiden Hutchinson wasn't on this defensive line, how many sacks do you think are happening?
Yeah, that's the thing is what
are we talking about?
He makes others better because he's drawing double teams. He's getting chipped. I mean, like the offensive line's keying in on Aiden. Of course, Aleem McNeil and those guys are getting free, but I mean, Anzalone had 2 sacks yesterday. Are we going to book 2 sacks from him every single week? No. I mean, he's a guy that can get free sometimes. But this defensive line, it's Aiden, and then you got Aleem McNeil. And then everyone else, it's kind of by committee. That's how that works.
Right. And for the record, I've never been, and I get it. I do want the Lions to make a move at the trade deadline because I think that would put them more over the top when it comes to the playoffs, more so than anything, because the Lions' schedule lines up very favorably and all of that. But I don't understand why anyone's taking pot shots at Aiden Hutchinson at this point in the year. It's so weak. It's the most nonsense thing I've ever heard in my entire life. He's the best player on this defense. That's facts. Would everybody agree with that at this point?
It's not even. That's why it's like I'm not even going to get that mad, because it's not even. If you cannot see that Aiden Hutchinson is not the best defensive player on this team, then I'm sorry. You just need to wake up.
Guys, Neil Rule's had it out for him since the day he was drafted. That's facts. You'll notice he'll never praise Aiden Hutchinson. He'll talk about Kirby Joseph and basically like be pleasuring himself under the desk. But when it comes to Aiden Hutchinson, it's always just like, do it again.
Wait, hold on. We might have a Neil Rule appearance on the show. Did he call in, JB? Welcome in, Neil Rule.
All right, I'll send you guys
I wish we could V-mix him.
We should have V-mixed him. It's all right. We got him on the phone. Neil Rule, how you feeling? I know what you want to talk about, so just get it off your chest.
Gentlemen, how are we this fine morning?
We're doing good, Neil Rule. How are you?
I'm swell. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking. Samuel, Flannel.
Yes.
Hey, let me talk to you for a second here, Brody.
Okay.
All right? All I hear about is how Hutchinson, quote, needs help. He needs help. We got to get Hutch help. And then I perused the stats today. The 11 different Lions have sacks. Then we bring up like the Kayvon Thibodeau thing. And look, I'm not here to say, oh, we should have taken Thibodeau. I'm not here to say that. But I look around and I say, and I hear, well, look at all the help Thibodeau's got. And then I look at their stat sheet. They got, and you love this. This is very granular and stat-based, Flannel. This is right up your alley. The Giants got 4 different players with 1 or more sacks. So I would ask you this. Who's getting more help? I'm tired of the he needs help narrative. I'm tired of the, hey, pressures are cute thing. I'm tired of it, man. Everybody wants to jump on J-Mo and stuff. Where's the production? Well, I get to do that too. I get to play that game too, Sam Flannel, because all I got to do today is take calls and hear about he needs another bookend rusher. No, we spent the number 2 pick on one.
Okay.
I'm good there.
Okay, but here's the thing, Neil Rule. Aiden Hutchinson has been playing well. That's the thing. He leads the team in sacks.
He's not going to have a sack for a month.
And Jamison Williams has 6 catches for 71 yards. Jamison Williams has 6 catches for 71 yards this whole season.
Right, yeah, okay. You are a Michigan fan. You are a Michigan fan. I can tell because Jamison Williams is your Michigan State. Like, you just deflected that. We're not talking about Jamison Williams.
I said Aiden Hutchinson.
We're talking about Hutchinson.
Oh, my God.
And how he needs help. And we got to get a $25 million a year end and bring him here to help Hutch.
So what? Like, why are you taking? Here's the thing, and this is where I got some heat in I believe it was the Carolina game. I took some probably shots at Jamison Williams where he had 2 catches for 2 yards, but the Lions won. All is well and good.
We're not talking about Jamison Williams. We're talking about Hutch.
I'm getting there. The Lions defense, defensively gave up 7 points. They had 6 sacks as a team. The defense played well. Aiden Hutchinson has had a great year. Why is this time to bring this up? I mean, in his first season...
He has gone a month without a sack, bro.
So what? But he's played well. He's constantly getting pressures, and the defense has, for the most part, this year played well.
You know what? Stop with the analytics and stop with your granular pressure PFF Bible stuff, okay? You either sack the quarterback or you don't, Flannel. That's it. 11 different guys have sacks. Stop with this he needs help narrative. He's getting help. Anzalone's dudes around him are having a career year, Flannel. Okay. How much more help does he need?
No, and for the record, so so are you saying that Aiden Hutchinson is a bust now? Is that what you're saying? I'm gonna play.
When did I say that? No. Here's the reason for the phone call, guys. The reason for the phone call is because you're sitting there now spewing this narrative. I'm going to have to take all these messages about it from 11 to 1 today on Big D Energy with myself and 4-time Stanley Cup champion, who you say is a bust, Darren McCarty. All right? So and I'm going to take all these calls and Hutch needs help. I'm not having it, man. 11 different dudes got sacks. How much more help do you need?
Okay, but also the guy the edge rusher who has the second most sacks on the team is Julian Okoro with 2. I'm not saying that the Lions can't be successful and have a good year with if they stand pat at the trade deadline. I'm just worried about
because Flannel. Here's the problem, dude. Because you fuel this narrative about he needs help and stuff like that, and then I'm gonna hear about, well, we should trade a first and a third for Montez Sweat because he needs help. No,
not a first.
No.
Nobody ever said
and by the way,
first.
Neil, I can't. I gotta jump in with my guy because I am also on that camp. The only reason why I say that, Neil, is I'm looking at the big boys. I'm looking at the 49ers and the Eagles. And if there's a situation where Anzalone can get 2 sacks, Tracy can get a sack, J.O. can get a sack, then I'm cool with it. But against the Raiders, that works, Neil. But I'm concerned about the 49ers and the Eagles. Like, if this can keep up to his point, the second edge rusher on this team has 2 sacks. 2 sacks.
Okay. You brought up the stat. The Lions have more sacks than the 49ers. Like, this narrative, like they're poverty or something like that in terms of sacking the quarterback.
No, they're not poverty.
True.
So, Neil Rule, is Nick Bosa having a bad year then? Aiden Hutchinson has 4.5 and Nick Bosa has 3.
Yeah.
That's absurd. They're both having great seasons.
He is.
Oh, stop it. Come on.
It's November, Flannel. Nick Bosa's got 3 sacks. That's not acceptable.
No, it's not good.
And they've lost 3 games in a row. Not acceptable. This is a guy, Nick Bosa. I've called Nick Bosa not the best defensive player in football, one of the best players in football. And he hasn't lived up to that this year. And I'm a simp for the guy. And I got no problem saying, hey, he just hasn't been good enough yet. And you know what? They've lost 3 games in a row. And guess who's probably looking at himself in the mirror saying, I got to do more? Nick Bosa.
It seems like to me that you've had it out for Aiden Hutchinson since he was drafted, because he's the best defensive player on this team. He had a defensive rookie of the year caliber season. He's pretty much
no Flannel. I can keep things separate, dude. Like, no, he's not a bust, but I need more. I need him to go not a month without a sack.
Yeah, I need that. That's fair. But it's not like Aiden, because I get your sack argument, but the impact is still there. Would you agree there? Like, he's still leading the team in pressures, and you see his impact on a week-to-week basis. But yeah, the sack thing, I get it. But it's not like he's just absent on a week-to-week basis. That's not what happened.
But this whole he needs help thing, I'm not buying that, because they sacking the quarterback, they're one of the best teams in the league at doing it, and they've got it from double-digit different players. So save that narrative. Expect more, Flannel. You know what, Flannel? Hey, you said it. What'd you say when we were doing the shows earlier this year before the season started? Oh, I think he's going to get 13.5. I think he's going to get 14 sacks. Well, he ain't going to get there.
I mean, that's all well and good, and my prediction will fall short. But Aiden Hutchinson has had a very good year, and I would expect more from James. I would expect more than fewer than 20 yards receiving per game from Jamison Williams, and that's all. And you cape up for him like he's your son. That's all. That's the only reason I bring him up.
You know, he does have a touchdown every 11 targets. Well, I would say, hey, get him the ball more.
71 receiving yards in 4 games. So.
Well, I mean, hey, it's tough to get a lot of yards when you get 3 targets, right?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, they can get catches, but Jamison Williams can't. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Well, the weird thing about getting a catch, Flannel, you have to throw him the football. Hey, he's stretching the defense, Flannel. Oh.
He's stretching the defense when he's out there split wide. You see him run those deep routes, and then Laporta drags the middle. That's because of Jamison. He's having a good year. He's stretching the field, Flannel. Is that better?
No,
is that better?
The difference is Aiden Hutchinson, 4.5 sacks, Jamison Williams, 71 receiving yards. I know according to you, they're completely equal and everything, but there's levels to this.
Well, you know what it is? Hold on. You know what it is? He just needs help. Jamison Williams just needs help. We need to acquire another possession receiver. He needs help.
Listen, New World, again, against the Raiders, that is fine. Aiden and the rest of the guys, Anzalone can get free, but I'm looking at the Eagles and the 49ers. I don't see Anzalone and Tracy Walker getting sacks and having 2 sacks for Anzalone, 1 sack for Tracy Walker against the 40. I mean, you're going to need more help there. I'm just sorry.
Well, why though? I mean, but Jeff, though, why?
Because the Eagles have the best offensive line in the league, Neil. So when you faced the Ravens last week, pretty damn good offensive line, nobody got home. Because he's a mobile quarterback and a better offensive line. I'm just looking at the big boys, Neil. I'm trying to chase. I'm going after the big boys. The Raiders it is what it is. You can pile up these stats against the Raiders and the Falcons and all that. That's cute. But we're talking about the big boys, Neil. The top of the teams in the NFC. That's where you should be looking.
No question. But I mean, what's the magic wand to just wave and that stuff's handled?
No, you're right.
What I'm saying?
And I'm not willing to overpay. I mean, Neil, we talked about this yesterday. I'm with you. You don't want to overpay for anybody. So we agree there. Yeah. We agree there. But
hey, lot of trade deadline stuff today on Big D Energy 11-1.
Yeah, there you go.
Myself and the overrated Darren McCarty according to Sam Flannel.
There you have it. The great Neil Rule. Go, of course, check him out. Big D Energy 11-1. We appreciate you, Neil. We appreciate you.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
See y'all.
All right, there you go. Neil Rule, you can check him out in about, an hour and a half or so. Him and D-Mac will be recapping the Lions' victory. He is interesting, to say the least. He is the man. All right, we'll go to break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the trade deadline like we kind of wanted to talk about. We already talked about a little bit with Neil. But Leonard Williams being traded to the Seahawks, what that means and what the Lions should do. But first, we got to hear about our friends over at Guardian Alarm. Sam Flannel.
Guardian Alarm. All right, let me find the damn read. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night. Know the Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security uses technology doesn't prove to work. If people have been proven to care, call 1-800-STAY-OUT.
Oh my God. Damn.
Come hang with the Woodward Sports Crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays. Join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, September 13th.
Join now at any Metro Detroit location. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Fairway Packing Co. For over 60 years, Fairway Packing Co. has provided Michigan's finest finest restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry-aged beef. Visit the steak shop at Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks, or you can order online at fairwaypacking.com.
Get your meats.
Get your meats. We're back. Speaking of meats, that was quite the beef we just kind of went through there with Sam and Neil Rule. Sam, are you okay?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Well, I'm great.
I am. All right. I'm not okay. He goes, I'm okay.
No, I'm fantastic. I am wonderful. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful people in the chat that just continue to eat up the rubbish as fucking gospel, and that's fine. I would actually love Braden Katz today over some of you guys.
Oh, he's going low.
Victory Tuesday,
not the people.
Flannel.
Don't come after the people. Spencer Raxter says we need a flannel press conference after the show. Flannel on the stand after
just
the show.
All the flashes.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline coming up today. Guys, Leonard Williams was dealt to the Seahawks for a second and a fifth round pick. Of course, they kind of, they kind of paid the Giants to pay most of, or a majority of Leonard Williams' salary so they could fit him under their cap space. It made sense, all that. But Leonard Williams for a second and a fifth. I don't know if that's what I'm looking. I think if I'm paying in a second and a fifth, I think Chase Young or someone from the Washington Commander. And Leonard Williams is fine. He's a guy that, again, it's hard to measure his impact with sacks. Like, just his presence is one thing. But the Seahawks, they might have set the market with this trade, Sam. And of course, Chase Young is a better player than Leonard Williams. Jonathan Allen, better player. Montez Sweat, better player. If he's going for a second and a fifth, you might be talking about a second and a third, or hell, at the very worst, maybe even a first-round pick for these guys. Yeah. So that with new information, things change. And if that's the asking price for these guys, I'm out. I'm not paying a first-round pick. Now, if you can get a deal done for something like a Kevin Byard, maybe a fifth, a sixth, whatever it is, then I'll listen. I think there should never be a reason not to try and upgrade your team, at least if it makes sense financially. But Leonard Williams, the Seahawks, I think it was a good addition because they're all in, and it tells their fan base, we're all in. We're one of the best teams in the NFC. Let's go get it. But they also kind of did, overpay for a guy. That's actually in a walk year this upcoming year. So they're probably going to most likely try to re-sign this man because if not, he's a rental.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that Aiden Hutchinson should have to do everything himself, and the Lions should stand pat completely, and everything is 100% fine because whatever. But okay, all right. So to me, I do think it would behoove the Lions, especially when it comes to them playing better teams, to at least be in like the Montez Sweat sweepstakes in some form or fashion, because here's the thing. The Lions, I would say defense, we can be very, very happy what they did against the Raiders. Obviously getting 6 sacks, that is all well and good. But you also look at how they performed against the Seahawks and against the Ravens. It definitely wasn't good enough those days, and I still worry. Here's kind of, I would say, a question maybe to the room, and this is an interesting thought experiment that I'm kind of doing in real time. Do you think it actually might hurt the Lions in terms of their perception of themselves in the long term by playing kind of an easier schedule, by getting to feast on some of these bad teams? Or because when they've played some of the better ones, the defensive line hasn't looked so good, and maybe they're thinking, we're going to be fine, and maybe when they go into a playoff game, they're not fine. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
there?
I do. No, I do. And we're in lockstep there. Like, I think part of it, to Neil Rule's point, a lot of guys are having career years. That's awesome. Anzalone, what he's been doing, Tracy Walker has been really, really solid for them. J.O., of course, Aleem McNeil. But I'm talking about when you're facing, you're looking up. You're not looking down. Like, you could take care of the Raiders. You could take care of the Falcons. Like, of course, they should. You could take care of the Panthers. But when you face the Eagles and you got Lane Johnson staring at you in the face, you think Julian Okwara is going to be able to beat that man consistently? It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson is going to get double teamed, and they're going to make one of these other guys beat you. And you think Aleem McNeil is going to look Jason Kelsey in the face? You're going to need more help.
Sure.
And this isn't saying the Lions don't have enough. Oh my God! It's just stating an obvious fact. Like, the Eagles stacked on their defensive line, the 49ers stacked on their defensive line. And you could talk about the numbers and bring up Nick Bosa not having a career year. I don't give a damn. They still have a lot of talent on their defensive
They got
line.
Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner right behind them.
And they got Dre Greenlaw and Fred. But what were your thoughts on it, Lucas? Because you haven't really been able to share your thoughts on this whole thing. But am I off base here? I'm looking up. This is enough to take care of these other guys. But if you think the Lions are true Super Bowl contenders, it's never a bad thing to get better, as long as it works financially. That's the other piece of it.
If you think the Lions were Super Bowl contenders 2 weeks ago, and then you look at the other teams that were Super Bowl contenders, you look at the 49ers, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Seahawks, all in the NFC, Super Bowl contenders. Other Super Bowl contenders are making moves. So you cannot deny that the fact that now that's slightly, even if it's just a little bit, puts the Lions behind the 8 ball if they don't make a move this season. So to sit here and say that you don't want the Lions to make a move, I'm not going to hate you. But when it comes playoff time and you're like, damn, the Lions just need that one guy, I don't want to hear it. Because the Lions could go out and get that guy right now. They have the cap space to go and sign somebody. They have the ability. They're in win-now mode. They have a good GM. It's a place, a destination that players want to go. It's really going to be disappointing if they don't make a move. And in all honesty, I do not expect them to make a move. I think Brad's going to stick to his guns.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to stay put. And I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to be pissed wanting to storm Allen Park asking Brad, what the hell are we doing? But again, it's just one of those things. Like, for me, I look around the NFL and I see other teams in the NFC right now with a little bit more talent. I think the Lions have a lot better coaching than other teams around this league. So if you put elite talent with elite coaching, that's going to do phenomenal things. I just think they're a little bit behind the 8 ball right now when it comes to top-end talent, and it's hard to deny.
And I want to clarify, I'm not saying that Aleem is a bad player. He's actually a good player.
He's still a developing player.
He's still developing. He still hasn't hit his prime. There's still a lot of room for him to grow. But all I'm saying is that at this moment, this year, if you have Aiden and Aleem McNeil, I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here. Maybe other Lions fans are confident. I'm not going to say, yeah, they're going to get after that Eagles offensive line.
No.
To me, and maybe I'm alone in that. I mean, you agree with me, but that's what I'm saying. The 49ers offensive line isn't as good, but still, mobile quarterback in Brock Purdy. With Trent Williams, you got over there. They got dudes, too, on their offensive line. So that's why I'm talking about this. It's not about, they don't have enough, these guys stink. It's about, man, if we're going to compete with these guys, even Seattle, and they're getting healthy on their offensive line, it's a different game. It is with mobile quarterbacks.
Look at the running backs around the NFC, too. We're just talking about quarterbacks, but the running backs, the Lions, you have to be able to stop the run in the playoffs. And the Lions have showed you against okay teams that they can dominate the run game. But Kenneth Walker, they shut him down, but Geno Smith went off in the air. And Seattle was just kind of a weird one-off game on the defense side of the ball, so I'm not going to look too much into that. But Kenneth Walker. Then you go over to Dallas, they have Tony Pollard. 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. Atlanta Falcons, if they sneak their way in. They got Bijan Robinson. If the Saints sneak their way in, they got Alvin Kamara. 49ers obviously have Christian McCaffrey. Eagles, DeAndre Swift. Like, the NFC has good running back play in it. You need an end that can set the edge, turn it inside to Aleem McNeil and the other guys in the interior, and Alex Anzalone. The strength of this team is up the middle currently, so build on top of it and help them out and get somebody on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, even in this guy, too, like Cartage says, talking about a bunch of children crying, thinking this is Madden. Like, what?
No, man. Like,
it's funny because it's like banned from trying to improve your football team. Like, isn't that funny? Like, you just can't improve it. You can't trade for anybody. You can't do nothing.
The Seahawks were playing Madden yesterday. The Eagles were playing Madden 2 weeks ago, and the Niners were playing Madden 4 weeks ago when they signed it. Like, guys, NFL teams, the good organizations make a move. If you do not want to be considered that and you do not want to be an aggressive organization, that's fine. But winners are aggressive. You have to be aggressive in the offseason, during the season, and in the draft. And that's just facts. That's what the good organizations do.
Yep, John. That's what I think. John Lynch and Howie Roseman are in a different tier because of that.
They're constantly moving, man.
Yes, they are. But here's the thing, guys. It's not Madden. I mean, it's ridiculous because they actually make it work financially. You're not playing with the salary cap off and you're trading for all these guys. They're making it work financially.
The Lions have $19 million in cap space. $19 million. That is a whole ass, Uber contract. Like, that is a big contract that they can absorb. I'm not saying they should absorb it, but they have the cap space to make one of those moves. And that's why this is not Madden where you have to trade away a piece to get a piece. They can go out and get a guy right now.
Well, what about this comment, too? And I like this. Cy Gray. He goes, maybe we shouldn't say help for Aiden, but just call it stacking the D-line, strengthening our strength. Okay, just so how it sounds, I get. Okay, fair. Okay, stacking the D-line, like the 49ers and Eagles. There you go. So is that okay with everybody? All right, cool. So we're not playing Madden just by saying that?
No,
are the 49ers playing Madden
are.
by getting Randy Gregory?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Let's go to break here. When we get back, we'll get to what's trending with Lucas, and then we'll get to some mailbag here. But first, we got to hear about our friends over at Dispo, because Sam might need a joint right now.
Experience Dispo Romeo, a team that curates an exclusive atmosphere. Mixed with fresh inventory from Michigan's largest variety of products. The first ever cannabis mall of its kind is conveniently located off of Van Dyke and 32 Mile Road in Romeo. Dispo Romeo is now open late night until midnight every day except Sunday. Can it get any better than that? Dispo Dispensary, DispoShops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
We've just received word. The world's cannabis supply has vanished. The public is outraged and has taken to the streets in response to this tragedy. The individual responsible acted alone, and we can only hope they will make things right soon.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports. Woodward and Main Street. The Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
When buying or selling real estate, flexibility and control over the sales process is key. Sellers, how would you like the freedom of canceling your listing agreement at any time for any reason with no penalty? That is exactly what Mark White & Associates offers. It's called the Minute-by-Minute Listing Agreement by Mark White & Associates. Try Mark White's risk-free minute-to-minute listing agreement today. Looking to buy or sell real estate? Visit markwhitesells.com or call 248-290-8242. markwhitesells.com, where flexibility meets success.
You know what time it is? Time for what's trending with Lucas. Check the watches, check the clocks. Lucas, what do you got for us?
Oh, yeah, and you kind of just summing up kind of the trade talk. We got Dan Campbell at the podium. This is what he had to say about Brad Holmes and just his approach with the trade deadline.
Here's what I know 100% is whether we do something or don't do something, I trust Brad 100% that it's for the betterment of this team. It's the right thing to do. So, let's see where that goes.
By the way, this whole thing about, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lucas, if you're going to talk there.
No,
I just want to get this out because it seems like when you say improve your football team, people think, well, go get a guy that needs a max. No, that's not exactly what we're saying. Now, if people want Chase Young, I get all of that. But making a trade that is it financially makes sense and it improves your team, why would anybody be opposed to that?
They like their guys.
No, like I'm actually confused by that. If I told a Lions fan, hey, you want to improve your team for the right price? And they said no, I'd say, have you been to Dispo lately? Why not? If it makes sense financially, why wouldn't you want your team to get better? I mean, everyone else does it, but Lions fans, we just chill and say, we're cool. We're cool with it. Yeah. We'll win a Super Bowl this year.
I mean,
again, no one's saying mess up your future. No one's saying that. And again, I've said it like 15 times, but people still can't process it. No one's saying mess up your future. A 5th-round pick, a 4th-round pick is not your future. You can still draft 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th. You found Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston in the 6th. You found Amon-Ra in the 4th. You found Kirby in the 3rd. You can make this thing work. It's okay. So I just want to clear that up for people that are if you want to make a trade, well, you just want to trade for somebody that needs a max. No, that's not what we're saying, and that's what we've been trying to say. But continue, Sam. Sorry about that.
And the thing is, this season, and they can get this whether they make a trade or not. The window to the number 1 seed is wide open. I guess I guess I think the more this season goes on, especially when you see the struggles of the 49ers, I mean, they're not even leading their division right now, the more you're kind of thinking, the Super Bowl window is now. Even just winning one playoff game, it might not be good enough. I mean, I know we might talk about this on another show this week, but have you seen even the Eagles' upcoming schedule, which is daunting? The 49ers have some tough games. The Cowboys have some tough games. The Seahawks have some tough games. And you know what all of those teams have in common as well? They all play each other. So in a lot of those scenarios, someone's going to have to lose. The Lions, when you look at their schedule versus the rest of the contenders in the NFC, it's the easiest by a mile. It's even easier compared to the rest than you even think.
And to say, and by the way, Hoof-Hearted, on point as usual, appreciate you. It's just people don't want to see Holmes force a move that doesn't make sense, because that's what most Lions fans actually are saying when they say the word need. And by the way, I'm with that. Like, Lucas, you brought this up, and you said, I wouldn't, if I don't expect him to make a move at this point. And if he doesn't, you know what that tells me? Brad was working the phones, and he didn't want to overpay for whatever it was. Like, I think he's working his ass off. He's trying to get a deal done, but if it doesn't make sense and he doesn't do it, that's fine. I'm not going to come up here tomorrow and say, Brad Holmes is a fraud. But I will say, you know what? Maybe he did attempt. You'll see the reports come out afterwards that the Lions were in on any guys. Like, I'm not going to overreact, but hey, if there's an opportunity to make the Lions better when you're second in the NFC, which is a big deal, guys. The Eagles you have one more loss than the Eagles. The NFC's in reach. Like, sorry for trying to get better. Like, you know what I mean? It's a ridiculous argument. But yes, to Hoof-Hearted's point, and to your point, Lucas, if they don't improve the team, at least I know Brad tried. That's all I ask for, man. That's all I ask for.
Because we still trust in Brad either way. Like, either way, we're going to trust in Brad.
100%.
But speaking of other teams that are trying to make moves, is now being reported, and we'll start at both teams around the NFC North in this one. Jalen Johnson, the Bears' stud corner, he has requested a trade out of Chicago. Chicago granted permission for him to search for a new home before today's trade deadline. The player and team negotiated a new contract last week but couldn't come close to a deal, so now a talented corner is now available. Jalen Johnson, he's probably going to go for a second, maybe even a first-round pick depending who the buyers are. So could you see this being a positive for the Bears, or do you think this is an absolute negative that they're losing their best defensive player?
Oh, it's a good thing for Lions fans. Like, he wanted a contract extension. They couldn't come to terms, so he requested a trade. I love this. Number one corner, leaving Chicago. Cool.
I mean, he's been balling out this season, too.
He's damn good. Jalen Johnson's a damn good corner, so it's great news for Lions fans.
I mean, the Bears, they can't seem to get much right, can they?
Yeah, not saying he could even guard Amon-Ra anyway, but now it's even more of a certain that Amon-Ra will continue to cook the Bears.
Yeah, and with Jalen Johnson out, or he might not be out, but if he's playing in a situation where he's unhappy and maybe he does get traded, think about this. The Bears, it's just going to be an easier couple of wins for the Lions, because Jalen Johnson, he has been one of the team's few bright spots, I would say, but that defense is still just awful.
Yeah.
And then another one, I thought I had the graphic for it, but I'll get it in a second. Jameis Winston. Looks like he is on his way to Minnesota, most likely by the end of today. So does that move the needle at you, the fact they're going from Kirk Cousins to Jameis Winston in Minnesota?
I swear to God, Minnesota, and by the way, as a Lions fan, you should love this. You should be, speaking of Jameis, eating a W right now because Jameson's going to, Jameis. I do that too. Yeah, Jameis Winston. We say Jameson so much. Jameis Winston's going to Minnesota. You should be eating a W because this is malfeasance right now, what the Vikings are doing. That's ridiculous. If it actually happens, if you're the Vikings, tank. As soon as you know you're not going anywhere, you tank. And not saying these guys will lose on purpose, not saying that, but what that means is you start Jaron Hall and you let them just play. You lose a bunch of games. You're going to be stuck in this mid-section of the NFL. And that's fine. We'll take it as Lions fans, but this is dumb. This is dumb, Sam.
Right, well,
you lose Kirk Cousins and you go get Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is not Kirk Cousins.
No, but here's the thing, and this is just from the Vikings' perspective. If they are trying to save their season, I'm not saying that there's anything worth saving, but they are 4-4, and they do have, from their perspective, they're probably saying, we have a couple of games against the Lions. They're not going to let a team that they could make a wild card. I would say that this could be a wild card level roster, especially with the way their defense has improved. Shout out to them. That they're not going to fuck around and let Jaron Hall be their quarterback and just lose a bunch of games. They probably think they can actually compete. Are they right? I don't think so.
Compete for what?
To make the playoffs. Which Jameis
compete for what?
To make the playoffs. Jameis Winston.
Oh, that's cool. You want a medal for that?
All right, fine. But Jameis Winston, he's a lot better than Jaron Hall, and Jameis Winston has recently played some pretty decent football for the Saints. And obviously, when he's right, he's a good quarterback.
So
he's not always right, but
compete for what? An ass whooping a little later than you would have got? I mean, you make the playoffs. Okay, you lose in the first game. Cool. Instead of missing the playoffs,
that's fine. But
to me, like, this is how I feel. And you want to get into draft capital? I'll get into draft capital. You tank and you get your future quarterback. That's what you do, Minnesota. If you had any competence in your front office, you'd have a communication with Kevin O'Connell and you'd be like, listen, man, this season's over. We don't have a good enough. We don't have a good enough team. And I know the NFC's wide open, but let's be honest here. You look at the top 4, top 5 teams. Minnesota ain't beating any of them. And like they just beat San Francisco in the regular season, but I'm talking in the postseason when they have to go on the road, travel to somebody, and take on an opponent. It's not happening, especially now, even without Kirk Cousins. You bring in Jameis Winston, he's going to save your season. Get that out of here.
He's more likely to save it than Jaron Hall. I will just say that. It depends on what the Vikings want to do. Would I probably tank? But at this point, have they won too much already to tank?
Yeah,
to where it's where it's like consequential. I mean, they're 4-4. It's not like they're.
Then you'll have a top 10 pick by the end of the season. You won't have a top 5, but a top 10. That's a difference, Sam. Like you could get a quarterback.
JJ McCarthy.
It's a deep quarterback class, and they're going to go all early at JJ McCarthy. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but regardless, like, come on. And by the way, Lions fans, like I said, Lucas, should be happy this is happening. Indeed. They should be excited.
But quarterbacks, and this will be the last one. Then we'll get into some mailbag. Quarterbacks that we know will definitely not be playing for the Minnesota Vikings. They're about to name 3 of them here, but RG3, man, he had some interesting words on him and Cam Newton's podcast yesterday.
And it's like essentially what you're getting at is basically NFL teams are making decisions that aren't based off of your talent. Because I agree with you. You should be in the NFL. You're damn sure top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. I believe I'm top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. And I also agree that Colin Kaepernick is top 32 quarterbacks in the world right now that should be.
I saw that, man, and I was just like, at some point, the 3 of them together collectively just have to give it up. It's not 2014 anymore. Can we all agree? RG3, Colin Kaepernick, and Cam Newton are all not some of the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the athlete, the confidence, the ego of being a professional athlete.
I can't do that.
Like when you're out there, you're like, I'm better than that guy. RG3 , are you?
Like,
you know what I mean?
Is RG3 really better than Taylor Heineke right now?
No.
And we'll start there.
No.
You know what I mean?
Josh Dobbs, maybe?
You know what?
I wouldn't even say that.
No,
Josh Dobbs
he's not
is
better
more
than Josh
athletic
Dobbs.
But that's a toss-up.
Gardner Minshew? Like,
no.
You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing, and I kind of want to start this movement because I don't think it's getting enough, I would say, legs that it should. RG3 is one of the biggest busts in NFL history. Mm-hmm. He had one great rookie year in which I thought he was actually going to be that.
After that knee, and he was never the same.
All in for week 1, right? All in for week 1. Got it. He came back before he was ready, and he just was never the same. And even when he had chances at Cleveland, he got hurt and was terrible. I mean, it got to the point. Remember when he was on at the time the Redskins? He was running scout team defensive back. Do you guys remember that story?
No.
It's an interesting character arc for Robert Griffin.
At least,
seriously.
Shoot, at least Cam Newton won an MVP, got Carolina to a Super Bowl. Colin Kaepernick, he had some success in the NFL. RG3 is a bust. He's one of the biggest busts in NFL history.
JB, when you heard those remarks, what are your first thoughts? Or should I say Connor Stallions?
RG3, you got to hang it up, man. This is not a place for you anymore. The game has, I don't want to say passed you by, but it's evolved a little bit more than what you guys were doing back then. So just let these guys ball. You, Colin Kaepernick, just chill on the bench. Just chill. Continue to do what you're doing right now, which is being a funny commentator. So just leave those boys alone.
Yeah, you heard JB Stallions. Like, leave him alone. All right, and by the way, Robert Griffin III, you do better as an analyst. So just no, you're not playing in the NFL.
Know your role.
Know your role. Like we know our role, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
you don't see me saying I'm a top 200 wide receiver at 21 years old.
Well, from Toledo. Hey, those Toledo boys, they're built different. Let's go to break here. We'll get to mailbag when we come back. And by the way, I saw this comment. I just want to address it. I don't even have to, but yeah, people talk, well, this one guy, I don't even want to read his name, but regardless, why aren't you talking about the Red Wings, guys? We'll talk about all that stuff later in the week. Today, it's Lions, and you know this city. It's all Lions. This is what people want to hear. But we'll talk about Red Wings, the Pistons, of course. You think I'm a Pistons fan, a Red Wings fan? You think I want to talk about them? Hell yeah. We'll save that stuff, though. You guys know how it is. It's just how the business is. All right, let's go to break. We'll come back. Like I said, we'll get to mailbag. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Lady Jane's.
Absolutely. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams and all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tourney. That's right. No expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, September 13th.
Join now at any Metro Detroit location. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Les Stanford. What happens when you're doing a great business for over 50 years? You expand and offer more products to more people. Well, that's exactly what Les Stanford has been doing. The same great service that customers have come to know and trust on Woodward Avenue, just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford at Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at lesstanford.com. And then after that, you get your car, you take it over to 5 Iron Golf. You play, practice, and party at 5 Iron Golf, downtown's newest sports bar. Got 13 track band simulators. You mention promo code Woodward at checkout for 50% off your first visit. And visit 5irongolf.com to tee up good times. It's mailbag. Let's get to a couple questions here before we end the show. First question, I'll start us off with Benji. Well, actually, first we'll go to Jack because he asked this one. Mailbag, can we nominate JB for Costume of the Year? Yes, we can. We can. Thor Neal says Mailbag Lions will trade Goff and a pick to sign Sue. That is insane. All right. We'll just go off of that one. Benji, Mailbag, on a scale from 1 to 10, without lying to yourself, how concerned are you about J-Mo and his hands? He's never been a true diamond hands catcher, mostly a breadbasket body catches. And that's very fair from Benji. Scale from 1 to 10, your concern level.
10.
Okay, 10. I'll go about like a 6.
I'd go like a 7, 8.
Yeah. What about you, JB?
It's like a 6, 7,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Okay. Now that's right on brand for all of us. To be fair, it is on brand for all of us. All right, let's go. Let's get to this question. Freddie fell 3-3 when Monty returns after the bye. How do you scheme Monty and Gibbs so both backs in our offense are not only successful but creative? But by the way, you can use them both at the same time. Like you see Gibbs lined up more in the slot, Sam. They could play on the field with each other, and they're thunder and lightning.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said though, I don't think you can really cut the carries that much of a running back who just had a game like Jahmyr Gibbs had. Like I said, I know I might have been speaking hyperbolic in the beginning, and I know people thought it was a shot at David Montgomery. It really wasn't. It's just something changed in me when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs with that game because he was brilliant. Like I said, what I saw on that field was a guy who can be the best running back in the NFL. He has that potential. David Montgomery, he still has value. Short yardage, goal line, he's still going to get his carries. But Jahmyr Gibbs, that man could be special.
He can. Spencer says, Millsack, Jeff, why did Lucas ruin Booner's bet last night?
I felt bad for it, and then I really got over it real quick.
Yeah, I told Booner, and I get why Booner, because you're okay. To be fair, you can't jinx at it. You can't hit the jinx,
which is fair. Yeah.
But Riley Patterson was shaking that thing anyway.
And,
so,
and the other thing is, like, bro, when Booner hits a bet, I'm like the number one guy hyping him up. I always lock in Booner's bets, and I make a joke one time because the only reason I did it was early in the game. I go, Patterson's got this. Booner goes, shut up, don't say that. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have confidence in Riley Patterson to a 40-yard field goal.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, don't say anything. I'm like, okay, I'm now going to say something because you just told me not to. Like he was shanking that kick regardless, and I'm sorry for jinxing it. But we're not going to act like Lucas Klotz is the reason why Riley Patterson missed that kick. Like, let's relax.
Riley Patterson was the reason Riley Patterson missed that kick. But I get it. The whole Booner, and he's got this whole religious thing. With how he does his bets, he likes it. No one jinxing it. But still, Booner took home like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, and it's almost like he was right under the line, which is almost what happens in betting when you lose every time. Like it was like 26.5 for the points. And he had that 52-yard field goal that shouldn't even went in.
Yeah, it all kind of balances out. Hey, Booner, we won some money yesterday. And by the way, I was sad because Booner, I won some money for the first time in a while, and Booner wasn't even hyping me up, dude. It was just negative vibes from Lucas. And I'm like, dude, we both won money. Like, let's go. And he's like, Lucas jinxed my bet. I'm like, dude, get out of it. Love Booner, man. He's a legend. All right. We'll get out of here, guys. Appreciate you again on a Victory Tuesday on Halloween. Have a safe one, everybody. And again, later on, we have still tons of programming here on Woodward Sports. Big D Energy 11 to 1 with Neil Rule. Shout out to him for joining the show today. Coming after Sam Flannel. And then, of course, you got Ermanni and Edwards 2 to 4. Heavyweights 5 to 7. The boys. And then you got Woodward Knights to close it out with the crew over there with Broder joining us as well every Tuesday. Don't forget, every Tuesday, Broder will be joining us. All right, we'll get out of here. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Lucas Klotz. Have a good one, everybody. Victory Tuesday.